Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on June the 6th, 2017. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, the trifecta in and of himself.
That doesn't sound right. What, you calling me fat here?
Yes.
Oh, alright. As long as we're clearing that up. Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will of course be discussing the games that we played. Take-Two's CEO says the company is under-monetizing its users. More than just skin, how hentai games are seducing new audiences.
Oh my.
We'll be discussing Steam Direct and some upcoming Steam Store updates. For Honor has lost 95% of its player base. Battleborn goes free-to-play, sort of. No Man's Sky is still in development, ? Evolve, that is the LAN software, not the game, shuts down. We'll have our weekly community corner and our weekly Steam discovery queue. And as always, timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rich.
Hey, you made it.
I did. I did. I only messed up once, and that's because you interrupted me. So.
Well, we can't have you get it right all the time.
Yeah, I've been on a good streak, though. The last, 5 or 6 episodes we've recorded, I haven't made any mistakes at all in the intro. So that's pretty good. So that's probably my best streak ever.
I wonder if I should feel guilty about ending it.
It doesn't matter. It's not like I wouldn't mess up at some point anyways.
Oh, so I've been okay. I'm still struggling with my YouTube channel, but that's that's for the end of the show for me to bitch about more than anything else, really.
Fair enough.
Outside of that, just really, it's mostly been YouTube stuff lately. I know, exciting times.
The most exciting times. Well, I mean, I haven't had very much going on either. Just work stuff. I got a fidget spinner. I'm going to spin it next to the mic. Let's see what the waveform does. Oh, I didn't spin it good enough. Not really sure if it's being picked up except when I'm talking, but
I definitely hear it.
I'll stop that. It's hard to tell because I've got some noise gate in Audacity separately from my other stuff, but
See, I run the noise gate after the fact, not during.
Usually I do it after too, just to catch anything, but that's on kind of a case-by-case basis. But
yeah, but I also do a lot more audio editing than you.
True.
I know, but that's rather contrary to what you would expect, since you are the almighty editor, but I'm the one that does a lot more post-processing on my audio.
You do. But yeah, we got a box of these at the office to give to clients and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I think I'll have one of those. But I'm gonna buy it. That's really like one of the highlights of my week, I guess. I've been putting together this server PC for like a few weeks now, and I've got it all put together and ready to go. I just have to plug it up and reinstall Windows on it.
Yeah, let me know when you get the fidget cubes instead.
I'd love to have a fidget cube, but I couldn't use it because I'd sit here click, 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 click. I couldn't do it while we record. But anyways, yeah. I built this server machine, and I'm just like, I want to take people to take bets on how long it's going to last, because basically I cobbled together a RAID drive from like a dozen or so hard drives that I bought at like a liquidation sale for a local business. I had to go through them and like inspect them all, and they all passed smart tests, but they're like all different brand hard drives, and you're not supposed to build a RAID like that, but I thought, well, hell, why not? Let's give it a shot. I'm basically like, tinkering with PCs has always been something I've enjoyed, but now that I have an office and more room and a little bit more money and a little bit more time, I just want to start tinkering with all kinds of stuff. I tweeted, I think it was over the weekend, it might have been late last week, that I was going to mod my Wii U because it never gets used, so I was like, if I break it, who cares?
Well, Nintendo didn't care about the Wii U either, so...
That's very true. Very true. So I'm looking forward to doing some of that in the coming weeks. I got to get myself a little like workstation or table, something set up in here, but we're still storing some junk in our office.
I think the bigger bet should be not on the server machine, but just how long till you end up with something like a 3D printer.
Oh, man. I've always wanted a 3D printer. I just haven't had the money to afford one. But maybe this year or next year once we pay our mortgage down a little bit. But, yep, I've been on Craigslist shopping for computer parts and stuff, just like, that looks not fried. I'll give that a shot.
Yeah, is your local Craigslist actually decent on computer stuff? Because mine sucks.
Yeah, Chattanooga is close enough that it like gets included in the radius thing by default. So I'm picking up a lot of stuff from Chattanooga and Cleveland. I mean, if you just zoom in on Dayton only, it sucks, but I'm willing to drive a little bit.
Yeah, most of mine is either people that have no idea what the hell they're doing and just trying to sell decade-old hardware for current prices.
Yeah.
Or college kids are trying to make an extra buck, and they're also jacking up the prices.
Yeah.
But then again, that's what happens when you live in the butt crack of the world.
Huh. That's some odd background noise on my waveform. I wonder if that's the fan. It usually doesn't make any noise, but we piled a bunch of stuff in here getting ready for our yard sale. It might have changed the acoustics of the room. Weird. Ah, well, I'll deal with it in post.
Yeah, you won't deal with it live.
Nope. So, what game did you play this week, Rach? I'm excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, I played a couple. A few of them I played for the YouTube channel and just, I'll get to that later. And I did spend a little bit of time with Varia. It had its big summer update, and I'm going to talk more about that next week because the summer update launched just a couple hours ago from what I could tell. And I want to have some time with it. But the Sunday Sampler, I got my grubby little paws on a review copy of Everspace.
Yeah, lucky bastard. I wanted one of those.
I did get it from Keymailer, that's the thing.
Oh, did you do it the old-fashioned way? You contacted PR or...
No, got it from another site that you don't know about.
Oh, fancy.
Maybe someday you'll learn all my secrets.
Fair enough.
Okay, so Everspace. Think of it as essentially parts of 3 different games. You have essentially sort of the space combat from Freelancer because it really recommends mouse and keyboard for flight. You have the upgrade system from Rogue Legacy, and you have the map system from FTL, Faster Than Light. And it doesn't do any of them particularly well, for the most part. I think the best way it does things is the changes that it made to Rogue Legacy's upgrade system. And we'll just go through these in sequence, and then I'm sure you'll jump in at certain points and ask me different questions. My Sunday Sampler was like 40-some minutes on this, and that's me condensing things as well, so I have a feeling we're going to talk about this for a while.
Right. Well, before you even start, I want to ask a question. It recommends mouse and keyboard over, like, a joystick or flight stick or control, like... Because I want to play this game with my flight stick.
Well, you are so out of luck.
Oh, okay.
It has 0 joystick support right now.
Oh. Well, fuck. It says it's got full controller support. I assume that's for Xbox and PS4 and
yeah,
Steam
it is, and I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't try it because of how the combat handles. Because, I'll be perfectly honest, it does not feel like a space flight sim. At all.
Okay.
Which will... okay, let's just jump ahead to combat, since you want to talk about combat. Okay, the best comparison I have to it would be something like Freelancer, because both of them use the mouse and keyboards system, where the mouse essentially is your joystick, and your WASD is controls lateral movement and your throttle. with Q and E also controlling rotation.
Okay.
The biggest difference I have with this between Freelancer and this is the sense of really distance and how the combat handles in general. A lot of things tend to have turrets on them or are able to spin on a dime. And because of that, it doesn't feel like you're trying to navigate in behind something to get out of its arc of fire and shoot it. It feels like you're essentially in a 3D first-person shooter or third-person, depending on which camera you're using. I actually prefer the third-person because of some of the other stuff that they have going on with the flight and just how you have to gather resources. But because of that, and the fact that everything comes in so damn close, where you are practically scraping paint off of your enemies, literally. As a matter of fact, if you're playing on normal or hard difficulty, most of your damage may come from just enemies ramming you as they try to fly past you in sub-100-meter distances. As a matter of fact, most of the enemies that warp in, do so within a kilometer of you. It changes the feel of combat so much because of that. Between that and the fact that it seems like everything is constantly able to shoot at you. I really didn't care for the combat at all. Maybe it's just because I was going into it wanting to have something that felt like Freelancer or felt like another space combat game, but this felt nothing like that. I'm sorry I'm being such a wet blanket on this already.
No, that's fine. I'm just listening and thinking. I
also mentioned that the reason why I went to third person was that there's a lot of precision flight. A lot of this game comes down to resource management in your crafting and also be able to repair yourself, because the crafting system is broken down into, I want to say, nearly a dozen different resources. Things from just nanobots, which are essentially your repair kits, or whatever you want to call it, to different resources of varying degrees of rarity. And most of this is found either in asteroid fields or just off enemies. As a matter of fact, that's where most of it's found. But in asteroid fields, typically you have to go find the larger asteroids and fly into them in either natural or man-made cave systems, depending on just how the asteroid spawns, because different tile sets. This is a roguelite, by the way. This isn't a space flight sim, like Freelancer, where it's a open world game. But you should have figured that out from me mentioning FTL.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what exactly are the roguelite elements of this game?
Think of it as essentially FTL, where the entire thing is to get to the end of the map system, where each sector is broken down into a pathway that has essentially, I think, 3 or 4 different tiers of nodes, and you have a choice sometimes of which ones to go to, but you always have to progress forward. And it also has the FTL system of, if you spend too long in a particular system, in a particular node, a enemy fleet will warp in and kick your ass. And depending on the difficulty, that could be a very, very short time, which makes it, the entire exploration thing, feel very contradictory. Well, I talked about this game being contradictory on a lot of fronts, because they want you to go explore, they want you to go mine stuff, they want you to go gather your resources, but you're on such a tight time limit, particularly whenever you have the difficulty on even normal. And also, you're constantly having to try to find fuel. Sometimes it shows up as mineable resources. Most of the time you get it from ships, but ships just do so much damage, and because they come in so close, and ramming damage is just so off the charts if you're not playing on easy, it just feels like you're banging your head against the wall. But that may be part of the roguelite element, where they want you to grind and grind and grind and get on that treadmill and try to essentially fill out the Rogue Legacy style of power tiers.
Is there anything that carries over after you lose
Yes, there
and have
is.
to start over?
There is a couple things. One, I mentioned Rogue Legacy a couple times. It has the system where as you progress through the game, you gain credits. And this is also what you use in traders. So it actually, once again, feels very contradictory. Okay, you can stop at a trader and, pick up some stuff and maybe be able to craft something and get further. But this is also dipping into the funds that you use for your overall progression. Kind of strange there. And at the end of the run, whatever credits you have left over, you go in and have, I want to say like 20 different upgrades that you could do. And some of them are also ship-based. So the Interceptor has one set of upgrades. The gunship has another. And the gunship and the Scout, the two other ships, also have to be bought with credits as well. And any credits that you have left over after you buy all your upgrades and start your next run are lost. Which I absolutely hate that system. I hate it with a burning passion. You have to use all your credits. You cannot save up. If you start to hit a power plateau like I did in Rogue Legacy, where you're just having bad luck, it's a complete waste of time. Granted, this game does seem to try to curtail that somewhat, where some of the more expensive upgrades are bought in sections or bought in payments, where the first part is like 200 credits, the next one's 400, next one's 600, and next one's 1,000, or something like that. Something along those lines. So you're not having to dump 4,000, 6,000 credits on a single upgrade. You are able to buy it in sections, but that still leaves it where if you have a bad run, or if you got all the cheap stuff, it's still a complete waste of time.
Right.
And also, something else that is your general progression. There's actually two rare drops that you get. One is blueprints, which, after the run is over, unlocks the crafting system. Another thing in the crafting system. And the blueprints are exceptionally rare. To the point where in 5 or 6 runs, I only found 3 or 4. And that was, and I was finding most of them on the longer runs after I bumped it down to easy. And I have no idea just how many blueprints are in this game, but if you want to have missiles, you're going to have to use the ones that you have the blueprints for, or you run out. If you want to use the consumables, you're limited to what you have blueprints for, or go trade and cut into your overall progression. It feels very contradictory, And that's not even getting into the fact that the crafting system also feels like it punishes you if you craft too much because of the way the damage is done. Because there's essentially 2 life bars, sort of. You have your overall whole health, and if that goes down to 0, you're screwed. You're dead. But there's also system damage that could happen, where if your shields go down, and every time you get hit, you have a chance that system damage could occur to you. And some of this is a death sentence. If your life support is gone, you have less than 5 minutes to restore it, or you're dead. And it not only requires the nanobots, but it also requires other resources. So if I can't remember if it uses the same resources or not, but let's say I just replenished all my missiles and used up a bunch of my resources. Well, next encounter, I get my shields knocked down, and I take 1 extra hit and lose my life support. Just bad luck. And I don't have the resources, and there's no resources around me. I am fucked. And that is just not fun. And on top of that, also my best run was ended because I had a random encounter where I came into a area that had a battleship in it, and it had a jump suppressor that wasn't letting me leave. So I had 2 choices: either fight the battleship or, fight the battleship. And I didn't have a loadout built for that. Maybe that's something that, if it was later in my progression, I had more blueprints, I would be able to, craft something, or, make the badass missile that would, one-shot it. But, it's just not very fun that, okay, I'm doing all right. Well, there's a Corvette. Well, you're screwed because you don't have the blueprints for it or the upgrades needed.
Yeah. I'm hearing a lot of elements that have been borrowed from other games in this genre.
Yeah, well, the three main ones are FTL, Freelancer, particularly for how they're handling the mouse and keyboard control. Rogue Legacy, FTL, and Freelancer. Those are the three major ones I could think of just off the bat.
You're describing a lot of aspects of Elite Dangerous as well, which I don't think you've played that game.
Yeah, I haven't.
But I'm hearing some Elite Dangerous stuff in there as well. Talking about like losing life support and system damage and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure they're out there, but I'm not aware of very many other space games in this sort of...
like I said, the main reason why I go FTL with this over is something more modern, like Elite Dangerous. Well, one, I haven't played Elite Dangerous, but also just how it handles. It just feels... Yeah. A lot of this feels like they borrowed ideas from various games, but didn't get why those systems worked. With the exception of the Rogue Legacy upgrade system, because if they have to have the Rogue Legacy system, fine. They did it all right, where they broke up some of the bigger purchases into smaller purchases. That works a lot better than how Rogue Legacy did it. But the crafting system, I just don't really care for, particularly because the blueprints are just so rare. And granted, the difficulty system feels very weird as well, because normal mode, you're just taking so much damage. But easy mode, you have a lesser chance to get blueprints, and it does cut into your credits. But you are able to get so much further, and it allows you to see the story. And yes, this actually has a story to it, which is a little strange for a roguelike game, because typically the roguelike genre, a story is either just the setting, or a little bit of flavor to it. But this has actually fairly a deep story for the genre. The problem with that is that, well, you're kind of forced to go read the codex if you haven't played in a while, because you get the encounters once. So if you're coming back to this, you'll have it where you have no idea what's going on, or you don't recall what the story events that happened 30, 40 runs ago were, when the runs are actually fairly lengthy. Matter of fact, I would say a few hours for a successful run.
That's pretty long in comparison to most roguelike games.
Yeah, but this is also...
Usually runs are...
Yeah, this is broken up into... each system has an autosave as you enter it, so it does have a natural breaking point.
Okay.
And you also have to watch your fuel like in FTL, because if you try to jump without fuel, guess what? System damage. I will say that you probably would like this a lot more because of the emphasis on the mining. And I know how you love to go mine stuff.
I don't know. I mean, you're saying there's time limits, and they're pretty restrictive. I don't like to be...
I would say... in easy mode, I would say probably 10 minutes for a system. I'm just purely guessing on that, that sounds like a lot of time. 10 minutes, but...
That doesn't sound like very much time at all, actually.
Well, the maps aren't huge, but here's the kicker, is that there's no map screen. There's no local map screen. Everything is controlled by the HUD in your sensor range, which makes it so that it can be very difficult to keep track of things, or you'll just get cluttered.
Right.
There's just it's one of those games that it feels like they borrowed a lot of stuff, but they never really understood what made it great. I know I've said that before, but it just feels very middling. It doesn't feel like a great game, but it doesn't feel like a terrible game. It's just kind of middle of the road.
Right. I mean, I'm hearing some things that I like, and I'm hearing some things that I'm going, nope, not interested in that at all. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to play it, but I don't want to spend, what is it, $30?
Yeah, it's a $30 game. It feels a lot more expensive than what it should be. That's it. It is a very pretty game, well, for the most part.
I mean, it does look gorgeous, yeah.
Yeah, I did notice that there was some odd level of detail things going on, particularly with the asteroids that you usually have to either fly very close to or in. As a matter of fact, there was one point in my video, I noticed that there was a seam on the asteroid. Well, not really a seam, but just a hard line from the shadows where there's like a little ridge in the geometry. And if I flew close to it, the ridge jumped. And it was a very noticeable jump and a very set range. So I would back up and go forward, and I could just see it jump left and right on the asteroid, which was kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know how I mean, this has been on my wish list for forever, ever since I saw it in early access.
Well, I'm also a lot tougher on games than you. That's the thing.
You are, but I'm definitely hearing some aspects that I don't think I would like. I don't like the idea of being rushed.
Yeah, the fact that the first time that I had the enemy fleet come in, the Orca, whatever, big bad guys, warp in. It's like, oh, it's one of those games.
I also don't like that they don't have joystick support. I mean, it says that they're going to be adding it, like just in future updates, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, supposedly the version of I believe this is the Unreal Engine, just didn't support it. Which, how can you build a space combat game and not have joystick support?
I know, that seems ridiculous to me, but especially a game like this, where that it's all about space. You're flying your fighter basically.
Yeah, but you can see why I didn't bother with the controller, because everything is just literally in your face. You need that quick, just snap controls.
Yeah,
I mean, I would say a majority of combat takes place under 250 meters, which
is very close for these types of games.
I mean, that's literally in your face, and there's several times that the enemy will just fly right past you in sub 100. I would say sub 50 at times meters.
Well, I mean, in the trailer for the game, there's a couple of shots where the enemy ships crash into the player ship because they just fly too close.
Trust me, that happens a lot, actually. And it does feel like a lot of the AI, it handles about the same. There's no real change. It just feels more like the damage and the shields go way up as you progress. Trying to think if there's anything else I really need to talk about on this, because it's this has so many elements of games I absolutely love. It just I'm going to borrow a line from the new season of Samurai Jack. All the elements are there, but it lacks balance.
Yep.
Oh, something else. I nearly forgot about this. The access keys. Oh, what the fuck were they thinking with the access keys?
What is that?
Okay. Think of it as, how in, typically roguelites, there's some sort of loot chest. You come across a locked chest.
Okay.
They appear in this as access keys or access lock boxes or whatever. The only way to get an access key is to kill an elite enemy. And elite enemies are rare. Even more rare if you're in easy mode, obviously. But there's been times that I came across an access box, even playing in a normal mode, and I never even saw an elite enemy. And there was no way for me to open that box. None. It's just stupid.
Well, that sucks.
You would think that, I'm in a ship with giant lasers. I should be able to at least cut into it.
Do you think that if you're playing on higher difficulties, that it would be easier to get into them? Like the
no, because I think you would pretty much
more
instantly get killed. Because there was a couple times that I would jump into a system and I would just get mobbed by enemies. I mean, just right off the bat. Which was incredibly frustrating. As a matter of fact, I had a run just completely end because I jumped into a system, full shields, full health, and there was, I would say, 3 or 4 enemies just sitting there waiting for me on Warp Bin. It feels like they need to go in. It feels odd saying that they need to work on this game when it was an early access title. This should have been fixed ages ago. But there you go. It's just... what were they thinking? I think a lot of this is that they're trying to bank on virtual reality sales, on VR sales, because this is a VR title. Or has VR support, I should say. And it feels very strange to say that it's a VR game, but they ignored HOTAS. Doesn't it?
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's hugely important, especially in VR, because obviously you can't see what's going on around you. And not that you can't use a keyboard or a mouse in VR, but it becomes more difficult. Especially if you're like trying to do things really quickly and it's like, oh shit, I got my hands off of the home keys.
Yeah, I mean, this would
trying
have
to
been
find that with your
perfect,
fingers.
HOTAS VR game. But yeah, it isn't because, no HOTAS support, at least not yet.
Right.
Is there anything else that you want to ask me on this? Since I'm kind of coming up towards the end of things.
I don't think so. I mean, I've butted in whenever I've wanted to ask a question or make a comment, so...
Yeah, I'm just looking at the store page to see if there's anything else. I will say that the maps feel a little bit small, but yeah, with the time limit, that may be a good thing because usually there's, I would say, a good 2 or 3 set pieces per map, and that's probably including a chance for friendly, or I shouldn't say friendly, but neutral bases or neutral ships to spawn in.
Yeah.
And typically, what happens is you come into a map, you look around, see, okay, well, I see a wreck over in the distance. Fly towards that, pick up everything. And the loot range is also exceptionally small on this, where there's just so much fine control in flight that you have to do. Going into asteroids, going past stuff. There is upgrades that you could get to extend your range, but it also eats up precious slots for upgrades as well. So it's just one of those things that everything feels like they either have things too condensed or too short a range. I mean, literally everything. Except for the gameplay, because it seems like, I would say, like I said, 2 or 3 hours per run. I was getting I think Sector 5, towards the end of Sector 5 is when I hit that brick wall of the Corvette. And I was at the, hour and a half mark.
Right.
So I would say about 2.5 hours, probably the full game. Or a full run. I'm not sure what the ending is. And the thing is also, after you get past certain story missions, as a matter of fact, there's one story, little cutscene that's this big battle. That, it can be a run ender if you're having power issues. Oh, that's something else, is that everything is tied to a singular power bar, which is interesting.
Oh. So weapons, shields, everything?
Shields are their own thing, but weapons, consumables, all weapons, I should say, even weapons that shouldn't be powered, are powered. Like the Gatling gun eats up your power bar like you wouldn't believe.
I've seen games do that before, though, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
But power regeneration, at least when you first start off, is very slow. Granted, there is a lot of upgrades to work on that. And I was also running the basic ship. I never bought one of the upgraded ships. But the upgraded ships, it's really kind of just the different overall classes. You have the Interceptor, which is your jack of all trades. Then you have the gunship, which is your tanky ship, but it lacks shields. That's a weird thing. It supposedly has this forward shield thing. I've never played it though, but the fact that it lacks a proper shield when everything. Oh, that's something else. I just remembered is the combat. In the combat, what happens? Let's pick literally any other space game. You get shot. What do you see on the screen?
Usually your shield flickers, you'll get an indicator showing you the direction where the attack came from.
Guess what? Unless I completely missed it, no direction indicator whatsoever.
Well, that sucks. That's pretty much standard game design for any game that involves you getting shot.
Yeah, and there was a couple times that I got shot by a missile turret that was on an asteroid that didn't show up on the radar until after it launched a missile at me. And it got a secondary shot on me because, okay, I saw my shields just flicker. Where did that come from? Unless I completely missed the direction indicator, which is possible, because there's a lot of flickering UI elements. There's a lot of noise in the UI that maybe I just overlooked it. It's just entirely possible. But it's just one of those things that there's just, if you want a space combat game, go play Elite, go play Freelancer. If you want to play something with this type of map screen, go play FTL. If you want this upgrade system, go play Rogue Legacy. Or, hell, go play Dead Cells. That did it a lot better as well. Okay, I'm done here.
Alrighty. Well, yeah, I don't know. I'll probably watch TV's video. You said you guys were pretty close, but I'll still watch it anyways just to see if there's anything he mentions that you missed.
Yeah, he brought up a lot more in the options where... because I did watch his video after the fact. His video came out, today, Tuesday. And mine was Sunday. So, hey, I beat Total Biscuit.
Way to go.
I beat a cancer patient to getting a video out.
Well, I mean, you're crippled, so I think you guys are, in the same category there.
Yeah, true. But he went into... was talking about how the option screen makes it seem like the game is a little half-baked because it's pretty much standard UI for Unreal. And something that I completely overlooked was the fact that the options has a code on it showing what type of renderer the game is using. Yeah, something that should be on the developer side of things and the development builds.
Right.
And that's something that I just never really paid attention to. So it feels like maybe they rushed this game out. Maybe. I'm not sure.
It was in early access for a while, though. I don't remember exactly how long, but it's been on my wish list for a couple of years, probably. So
I have no idea. It's just there's just a lot of things that feels like they are not quite right. Only thing that I really liked about it was how they handled the Rogue Legacy style upgrades. And that's, just kind of meddling, fine. They're cutting down on power plateauing. They're not eliminating it because, you still have the chance of, this run is a complete waste of time because I only got, 150, 200 credits.
Yeah.
I warped in and all the enemies in the world just jumped me.
Let's see, Everspace. Oh, so not a couple of years, but it's been on my wish list for over a year. So, yeah, it's been early access for a bit.
There was one other upgrade system that I completely overlooked. There was the glyphs that I never saw. In 6 runs, I never saw one to drop. And Total Biscuit had 16 runs and only had 1 drop. And those are more overall game changers, You do more damage, but your reactor charges slower, that sort of thing. And that's one Total Biscuit had. But they're also, the one that he found was limited to a ship that he wasn't using. So there's a lot of rare drops that you could get. There's a lot of things to grind out and a lot of things to get on the treadmill for. If you really want that treadmill style game. But you also want your freelancer too.
Yeah. I'll try it out at some point. I'm hoping I'll get a late review copy or something like that. But I expect I'll buy it when it goes on sale at some point in the future for a lot less than $30. I might spend $15 on it. I just am not sure. I definitely won't be buying it without joystick support, though. That's how I play these games. So,
yeah, just keep talking because I got a train inbound.
Yeah, probably the only space game that I don't play with a joystick is Starpoint Gemini. But there's just so much stuff that you need to do outside of just flying your ship that the joystick would just get in the way. And they do a really good job of automating things that you would don't like, especially like when it comes to combat, that you would need the control of the joystick for. So, and the way I play too is pretty standoffish. I prefer carriers and things like that. So I'm rarely directly in combat.
Well, they do have drones in this. I only played a little bit with them, but once again, the drones are sub 50 meters from you. And I actually ran into my own drone a couple times and shot my own drone because it would get so damn close to the enemy to try to shoot it.
Yeah.
I think that's probably my biggest complaint about the combat. Well, that and the fact that it seems like no matter what position you are on the enemy, it's more you're dodging missiles and trying to dodge their shots instead of trying to get into their blind spot and shoot them like a normal space combat game does. So a lot of it is, it feels very much like a shooter instead of a flight sim.
Okay.
And this also is very heavily arcadey. This isn't anything close. This is more arcadey than Freelancer was.
Yeah, and Freelancer was pretty arcadey, so...
Yeah, you could go from full speed to stopping within 2 seconds.
It's pretty fast.
There's absolutely no momentum. There's no Newtonian physics. Even Freelancer had the ability to, do this weird flip around and kind of coast. There's none of that. It's all. It feels so much like a 3D or 3-axis first-person shooter than a flight sim.
Right. Well, like I said, I'll check it out at some point.
Yeah, sorry to be a wet blanket on a game that you really wanted.
Nah, that's okay. I'd rather not waste money or time. I have so many other games to play. So, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and it seems like their first patch was mostly fixing VR stuff as well. So, yeah, that may tell you exactly where their priorities lie.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily blame them for trying to carve out that niche right now. There are so few full-fledged VR titles.
I completely understand because, think of it, the VR titles full of games instead of experiences. What is there?
Yeah.
I mean, the big one everyone's talking about right now is the Star Trek Bridge Commander game.
Right. Yeah, Jim and some other people just got that, and they were talking about it on Stream Night Friday. So,
yeah, I will say
that
that looks very interesting, but it's also a game that I would only want to play with friends and not randoms. Because it just seems like that's a game that would just infuriate me if I was trying to play it with random people.
I've heard that it's all right because most people that are there are there because they want the experience, not to just be trolls. I mean, you get one every once in a while, but I've heard mostly good things about the random community for Star Trek Bridge Commander or whatever it's called. But I don't know. Haven't experienced it personally, so couldn't tell you for sure. Okay. Well, is it my turn now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so you had one game that was going to last a long time, and I have a bunch of games that won't last for very long. So, cause most of them are games that we've played before, and I've talked about before, but for one reason or another, I've played them, and there's been some updates or changes or whatever. So, the first one that I want to talk about is Divinity. So, I mean, we've talked about this game a lot. We've got our ongoing series on our YouTube channels about this game. But something happened the other night when we were recording that just kind of didn't exactly blow my mind, but it made me feel really good. And I've talked before about how good the crafting system is in Divinity and how it just makes sense. And, you would expect if you combine Object A with Object B that you'll get Object C. Like, it just feels very flowing and natural. And we took some time to actually go back to a town and...
Yeah, only 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, it really was like 2 hours to go sort our inventories and all that jazz. And I was doing some crafting. And all of the stuff that I was crafting was better. Which makes sense. Like, functionally that makes sense. Like, obviously you level up, you get more points in your skills and things. So obviously you're going to craft better things. But the way that Divinity handles it is so much better than other games. Like, typically in other games, which you made this point, Rage, that you'll just get new crafting recipes to reflect, your highest skill level or whatever.
Get, like one recipe A would be branch and low level gem. One recipe B would be branch and next level gem.
Right. But in Divinity, just all of your recipes stay the same, but they're just better as you level up and get more points in your crafting skill and stuff. And I just felt like that was awesome. Like, I crafted a full set or a suit of armor for your character and my character that was better than anything that we'd found in terms of defensive rating and elemental resistances and stuff. And it's like, oh, I remember the last time I made something like this and it was terrible. But I was low level and I didn't have so many points in crafting, and it all uses the exact same stuff. I just made it out of materials that I've been carrying around for forever because I'm a hoarder and a crafting person. So it just felt really good. And I mean, we bitch a lot about how that this Divinity has bugs and like what's our issue of the week and everything, but that game really does get a lot of stuff right. And so I just wanted to mention my
issue of the week last week was it started crashing when we got back into town, but it was you sorting your inventory anyway. I was pretty much done.
Yeah. So just wanted to mention that. That's really all I had to say about Divinity. So I'll move on to my next game, which is War Thunder. We did War Thunder for Stream Night on Friday.
By we mean you.
Oh yeah.
It was War Thunder. I think I need to be in a mood for, and it is very easy to get one shot and not have any idea what happened.
Yeah. It was a pretty slow night. It was me and Jim and Cube, and then Kyle showed up for a little while at one point and then left. So, but I mean, War Thunder has added the Italian Army and Air Force. I didn't know that they added that. Yeah, it's pretty slim pickings. I mean, the Italians in World War II used a lot of German stuff anyways, so there's some variations of German planes and tanks in the tech tree, and a few of the actual Italian tanks and planes in there, but it's pretty slim pickings. It's neat. I like when they do things like that. They've also added several different, or changed up the way that the categories work, or the game modes. There's more options and things like that, and they're running tournaments and stuff now. But otherwise, the game feels pretty much the same. I don't know. We did planes, so we got trounced because we're real bad. We were mostly just talking and not paying attention to what we were doing, so we got royally screwed. And some guy showed up and made fun of us for using, or made fun of me for using American planes. I was like, "Fuck you, dude! I'll use whatever goddamn planes I want." Then he left the stream. That's just some random guy. Random guy, if you listen to our podcast, fuck you. I'll do what I want. You're not the boss of me.
No, Katie is.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's my wife. She's in the other room right now, so fuck you. Actually, she's probably asleep at this point. So yeah, that was War Thunder. But after a little while, we got bored of War Thunder. It's 2 hours in, and somehow we got to talking about the Homeworld series. I don't remember how this came up, but we were talking about. Oh no, so I'm gonna put together a list of multiplayer games. I may have mentioned this last week. I don't remember, but put together a list of multiplayer games for the Steam sale so that we have some more stuff going on for streams, just to be able to mix it up some more. And I'm gonna start picking different games anyways, but I want people to be able to participate in even more games. And Homeworld came up as being a game on that list. And Cube was like, "Oh, I have Homeworld Remastered. I haven't ever played it. You want to play it?" I was like, "Sure, we'll go play it." So we played Homeworld Remastered for about an hour or so. Have I ever talked about Homeworld Remastered on the podcast before?
Not sure.
Well, the Homeworld series, if somehow you live under a rock and missed it, was a series of games that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s that were sort of, they're considered classics, genre defining for the space real-time strategy genre. They, at the time, used a lot of inventive things in terms of UI and vessel control, and they had this thing where that all of your progress carried forward in the campaign mode. So and it had a dynamic AI that would challenge you based on how much stuff you brought into the mission. So everything always felt challenging. And sometimes the AI fucked it up, and sometimes it didn't. So, sometimes you would just get screwed over if you brought the wrong stuff in, and et cetera, et cetera. But at the time, it was really groundbreaking stuff. And the Remastered Collection basically takes everything and wraps it up in the Homeworld 2 UI, which was considered to be the better of the two. It makes it beautiful. They redid everything. This is like a true remaster. They didn't just make it playable at modern resolutions. The game is gorgeous. But I actually hadn't played the multiplayer in Homeworld Remastered. So this was the first time I'd ever played it. Their multiplayer system is real dumb. It's very old school, like you create a room and you invite people in, and it's really wonky and stuff doesn't always show up right. I don't know why they don't use Steamworks or the Steam multiplayer system.
May not be able to be hooked into it.
Maybe, that's true, but they rebuilt so much of the game. Not sure why they wouldn't have done that, but regardless, at least it works. So we played a couple of games, and Cube was real bad at first. Because he hadn't... I think he'd said he'd played Homeworld before, but it had been years and years, and he couldn't remember much about it. And I beat him in the first game in like 20 minutes or 25 minutes, something like that. But he figured it out. And the second game we played was going a lot better. It was a lot more even. And we were just starting to have some bigger battles, and then it crashed. So...
On you or him?
It was me. I don't know what...
so he won the second game.
Yeah, by default, he won the second game. So we'll have to have a rematch.
Yeah, just the universe, blinked out of existence. Whoops, sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big capital ship player, so I had him beat in cap ships, but he was like swarming me with smaller vessels, and so it was a good fight, but then I got disconnected and crashed.
So it was sort of the Death Star strategy where you had this absolutely massive ship, but it was vulnerable to small fighters.
Yeah, I had by like the 20 or 25 minute mark in our second game.
Just looking for your thermal exhaust port if you do it.
Wink. Yeah, by the 20 or 25 minute mark in the second battle, I was playing as the Higarans, for anyone who knows. I had all 3 battle cruisers, because you're limited in the standard, with all the standard rules, to 3. I had 3 battle cruisers at the 25 minute mark, and 2 or 3 destroyers, and 4 carriers. But I had no frigates. I only had a couple of fighters and scout ships and like 1 gunship squad. So, and he had just swarms of assault craft and fighters and bombers, and it's good stuff. Good stuff. That's Homeworld Remastered, by the way, is gonna be on the multiplayer collection. You can do up to 8-player skirmish battles, and I'd love to do some RTS games. I've always, for stream nights, I've wanted to have some sort of strategy game for forever that wasn't Civilization.
I was about to say
something that we could play a round or 2 or 3 in a night, instead of taking 4 or 5 or 6 nights to play 1 round.
Well, welcome to week 17. We're in the Renaissance age now.
Yeah, that was the very first game we ever did streams of, because everyone from Kerbalcast wanted to play a game together, and somehow we were like, yeah, we should do Civ 5. I think it took us
then I had to go kill RoboBiff.
It took us 4 or 5 sessions before everyone was just like, fuck it, we quit, you guys win. Because it was me and you that were like neck and neck. And we had teamed up and we're just going to wipe out everyone else. And they were like, we all quit.
Well, it also didn't help other people that... RoboBiff decided to pick a fight with me. And after the initial panic, because usually the AI, whenever it picks a fight, it always has this overwhelming force just off your vision. I mean, that's typical for Civ.
Yeah.
And it threw like 3 units at me, and then I just rolled across Africa. We were playing a real life map, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, we were playing the world map.
Yeah, I basically had most of Africa, and that's just an absolutely huge landmass. And then we had 2 people that were in North America, 1 in South America. I think Asia was split up between 2 people. I had pretty much all of Western Europe and most of Africa, except for like 1 or 2 spots that you got.
Yeah, because I rolled in there after him, as well. Because you and I were both in like modern times or something like that, and they RoboBiff was still in the Renaissance era, or maybe I think they had musket men.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting. This overwhelming force, because obviously he's not putting his time into science, so he's putting it somewhere.
Yeah,
turns out
no idea what he's putting it into.
Turns out he was just resource starved.
Yeah. So that was fun. That makes me want to go play some Civ by myself, but definitely not a 6-week long multiplayer match.
I think the problem with Civ multiplayer, and I realize we're completely off topic, but what else is new? Is that the more people we get, the slower it gets, because it turns into whoever's the slowest. On top of that, but you also have a lot of talking back and forth and a lot of negotiating, and that's not a bad thing for Civ. But once you get past, I would say 3 or 4 people, that really, really, really starts to slow down the game.
Yeah, it really drags on.
Maybe if we started, instead of in ancient times, started in a more modern time on a smaller map, because we also, I think we took my suggestion and basically went 1 map size larger than what they suggest for our player numbers. And added more city-states to bicker over. Which works well for a single player, because, it allows a lot more expansion, a lot more larger empires to square off. But then again, I usually am a more military-focused player.
Right. And I am not. I'm a science player, so I'm a lot slower going. I'm mostly just focused on defense until close to the modern era.
Yeah, well, let's just put it this way. I think my most played civilization is the Japanese. But yeah, the Japanese are very, obviously militaristic. And their units, their big thing is, they're, at least in Civ 5. I have no idea in Civ 6. Civ 5, they're always fighting at full capacity, no matter how many units they actually have, or how damaged they are, I should say. Which makes for a huge advantage if you're fighting a lot of injured units.
Right.
Turns out they are very susceptible to one thing, though: the bomb.
Yeah.
Turns out Gandhi is the natural enemy of the Japanese. Who knew?
The Japanese did. But the next game on my list, Transport Fever. Haven't played this in a little while, but my kid this week was like, "Hey, Daddy, let's play the train game. We haven't played that in a while." And I'm like, well, all right. So I installed it.
You need to be prompted to play trains.
Yeah. So I installed it and started playing it again. And there's been several updates since the last time that I played it. And the 2 biggest ones is that they did some pretty heavy performance optimization.
Weren't you having some severe performance issues in late game?
Yeah. Even with my i7. It was still struggling at times to stay above 30. But they've done some... I haven't got to the late game on the new game that we started, but in the early game, I'm noticing an average of 10 to 15% higher frame rate than before. So they've definitely done some optimizing. And then they've made some changes to the UI. Before, you could access tons of information and figure out tons of stuff, but good luck fucking finding it and figuring out what was going on. I mean, it took me forever to sort of learn all the little systems and where all the information is to really streamline and maximize and all that jazz. But they've made a lot of it more accessible. They've put things in places that logically make sense for them to, like you no longer have to go through 3 menus to set up an automatic renewal or an automatic replacement vehicle for vehicles on your line. So you can now just whenever you're looking at any vehicle on your line, or even the line itself in the menu, you can just tab over and it's replacement vehicle. You don't have one, or you do have one, and you can set one right there. You don't have to open another menu or another couple of menus. And then a lot of the information has become a lot more parsable. They've just changed the design and layout of the UI to emphasize, these are the categories, and this is what this stuff in this category means. They've added some better tooltips and things like that. So just optimization across the board. So it's really nice. It's nice to see that they haven't just left that stuff alone, because in the original Train Fever, outside of just bug fixes and stuff, they never changed or improved anything. Modders were the ones who came in and fixed all that stuff. So they've
it looks like they may have added more modding support to this.
Yeah, the mods are growing pretty rapidly. I don't download too many mods from the workshop. Excuse me.
Well, obviously you're not me then.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the game, but in Transport Fever, most of the mods just add like different trains and stuff, which can be fun, but until they, I suppose some of their mod focus maybe is fixing that, but they had a lot of conflict issues with mods, so I kept it to a minimum to avoid crashing or hang-ups or other issues, but maybe they fixed all that stuff and can use a few more mods now. Most of the mods that I go for anyways just change the way that certain game elements work. There's one that slows down time progression, so that that's probably one that I use the most. It just tweaks the scales of everything so that you spend more time, or each year takes longer. But yeah, that's nice. Finally, the last game that I played this week was my only new game, and it was a game I got a review copy for. Tanks vs. Aliens. Yeah, this is an okay game. It's a real-time strategy game.
Just from the screenshots, it looked like Tower Defense, and I never played it. I do have a review copy of it.
It depends on which mission you're playing.
Well, let's put it this way. I had a choice between Tanks vs. Aliens and Everspace.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. It depends on which mission. There's... How many missions are there in the campaign? 25 or 30, something like that.
So more than 3.
Yeah. So...
it says
right here, 30.
Yeah, I was about to say, it can complete 30 missions. Or 30 levels.
Yeah.
Across 7 different game modes. And unlock 8 different tank classes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it starts out, and there are a lot of enclosed, like, tower defense style missions. But as you progress through the different missions, you get different... I haven't beat the game, but it does open up more, and there's some different things. Like, there's a 1 or 2 levels that feel very MOBA-esque, like there's lanes that you have to go down.
So, in other words, it's sort of the same issue I had with Everspace, where they're borrowing a lot of ideas, but they never really make them their own.
Yeah, they're borrowing from a lot of different strategy-type genres, and put them together.
This is well, I could see that the publisher is of a very high quality, though.
Yeah, this might be actually the best game that they have in their lineup, which is saying something, because it's not that great.
What, you're saying that this is better than There's Poop in My Soup?
It's definitely better than There's Poop in My Soup. And Super Duper Party Pooper.
Well, what about Frisky Business?
I don't know. It's tough. Frisky Business has got a lot of lewd content, and lewd content goes a long way. But I mean, it's a very average game.
So, and there you go.
Yeah. No, this is just a very average game across the board. It's a jack of all trades, master of none strategy game, where that it tries to do too many different strategy game styles instead of picking 1 or 2 to really focus in on, and that really hurts it. Plus, I normally don't get hung up on graphics, but it really does look like it belongs on a mobile phone or some.
You know, things are bad when you're talking about graphics.
It really does not look good, and they don't show it in any of the screenshots. Is it in one of the trailers? I have to check. No, they don't really show it in the trailers either. But the UI is huge. It takes up probably 25% of the screen.
Wow.
It's got huge borders. So
it's basically a mobile game ported to a PC.
Yeah, except I can't find it on any app store, so...
But I have a feeling this developer is going to be a pain in the ass to find. VR features. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna come up well in the in Google.
On the trailers, they zoom in and they don't show you the entire screen, but it really feels like you're playing an old strategy game where the UI elements take up, 25% of the screen just so they don't have to render as much.
Wow, I'm looking at some of the screenshots, and the pipe is hexagonal on this one screenshot. You can see it's a very, very low poly, and I realize that there is an art style where they could make things more simplistic looking, but this definitely doesn't look like they're going for that. This looks like it's just rough.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, it's not a bad game, but it's not a good game either. It's just okay.
It's a game.
Yeah, if you got this as part of a bundle or it goes on sale super cheap for like $1 or $2, it's probably worth that. I was about to say,
found it, but no, I don't think this is the same game. No, but it's the same name. Tanks vs. Aliens is also a mobile game.
Yeah. It's just average. It's okay. I'll probably finish it out. Maybe. Actually, I probably won't. I'll probably just run it in Idlemaster and get the trading cards for it. But yeah, as I've discovered. I mean, I knew this already, but as I've gotten review keys, it's like all of the shitty games are willing to give you everybody review copies for their game, and then the good games hold out for the better people. Which, I totally get that, but...
Yeah, which is completely why I never get them.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. Occasionally I get a good game, but, a lot of what I get is sort of the middle of the road.
Yeah. So, it's... Like I said, if you get it as part of a bundle or something,
maybe this is why Jim Sterling started doing a series on just all the shitty games. That's the easy ones to get.
Yeah. But yeah, if you get this part of a bundle, if you get it super cheap, for $1 or something like that, it's worth that. But it's not worth the $9 US that this is costing at full price. It has the one probably the best thing about the game is it's one of the only games I've ever seen where my frame rate is over 1,000. Like my frame, I think the lowest my frame rate got was 1,050. It tends to hover around 1,400. Even on my laptop, which is not for gaming at all anymore these days, it was still getting like 100 frames a second. So, on the bright side, you could play this on a toaster.
Well, what about a Nintendo toaster? Or have you ever seen people modding a toaster or a Nintendo Entertainment System into a toaster?
I've seen that, yeah. I think that's kind of cute. It'd probably play on that.
Of course, now the big thing is all the little micro arcade things. Or have you seen those where it's handheld, literally the entire cabinet?
No, I haven't seen one of those.
It's like an wide LCD screen. It's this little micro-sized, almost minifig size, or Lego minifig sized arcade cabinet. It's interesting.
Oh, interesting. I just Google searched micro arcades. Oh, it's cool. My eyesight's too bad to play any of those, but it looks cool.
That's when... No. You get a monocle. I'm going to go play some arcade games now and put on your monocle.
Yeah, that's cute. So yeah, those are all the games I played this week. A lot of updates and then one game. So.
Well, to be fair, I had one game as well.
Yeah, it was just one big game.
So, speaking of
Yeah, we can move on to our first news topic, which is Take-Two CEO says that the company is under-monetizing its users.
Actually, that's not so much as
Yeah. Jim Sterling did his Jimquisition this week on this topic. He got really mad. Really, really mad.
Well, trust me, he's not the only Jim that's going to be very upset. Oh, what the fuck? This makes me not want to get any Take-Two games whatsoever. And that's a little disturbing considering, well, literally the day before this article broke was the announcement that they acquired the rights to Kerbal Space Program. And you can imagine just, how this news has been taken in the Kerbal Space Program subreddit.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are worried.
I would say rightfully so if they're talking about how, I think the term that, well, I don't think it was used in this, but it's a term that I've heard over and over again over the years, is leaving money on the table. This idea that if you don't take literally every cent, which they do say that we're not going to dick on dime people, no, we're just going to quarter you to death. If you leave any money on the table, that is, a loss for you. That it represents that something that you could have had, but you didn't because you gave too much content, or you didn't have enough microtransactions, or you didn't sell the proper thing. And I think that philosophy is really going to come and bite some of these game companies in the ass. Because honestly, if I wanted to be nickel and dime to death, I would play a damn mobile game.
Yeah.
Because, I think that's where this is really coming from, is they're seeing just, how popular microtransactions are on mobile titles. But they don't realize that there's a difference between getting a microtransaction on a free game or a game that was under $5. Because I would say that's a good 90% of mobile games is under the $5 range.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, anything that's over $10 is just seen as just outrageous on a mobile device. And having microtransactions in a $60 game, or have it where your $60 game is not the complete thing. You have to get the season pass, and that's another. Well, now it's going up to what, $40, $50?
Yeah, some season passes are already the equivalent price of the game or more. Wasn't it Battlefront that the season pass, if you bought like the ultimate edition of the season pass, whatever? Yeah, so. Yeah, I want to go back to the leaving the money on the table thing. Like, I don't know what it is. Well, I do know what it is. It's greed. But it's so frustrating. It's like, you guys make money. You make money. You just don't make all the money. And all of these devs are like, we want to make all the fucking money.
Well, it's not the devs, it's the publishers.
Sorry, the publishers. Yeah.
I'm the one that kind of lumps the two together. You can't have my thing.
Fair enough.
Start without buying my drink first.
Wink. But I just, there have been, even among general consumers, there have been downturns on certain games and genres because they put these things in there. They put microtransactions, and so far it's not been enough to.
Or they kill genres just completely because they see money in a genre, and they just push it and push it and push it because they see money on the table being left. Oh, let's just pick. How about the music genre?
Yeah.
Well, of course, you start getting into the whole thing with licensing problems as well, but that's a whole nother kettle of fish. But there was how many Rock Band games within a 5-year span?
Something like 3 or 4.
And that's not even counting all the little spin-offs as well.
Yeah.
That's just the numbered titles.
Yeah. It just is so frustrating. Like, you guys make money. You make lots of money. We pay you lots of money for stuff.
I mean, I think I see what they're doing. They're worried about their operating costs. They're worried about that games are becoming more and more expensive to make, and they're trying to see where to get the money for it without going over that $60 price tag. But they're going to scare off a lot of customers.
Well, the thing is that a lot of the money that goes into game development these days, especially big AAA titles, goes into wasteful things like marketing.
Well, I wouldn't say marketing is wasteful. It's just, the thing is that a lot of times it seems like they focus on the wrong market, or they try to go for a more general audience instead of trying to get their the core audience aware.
Yeah, well, I mean, they'll spend millions of dollars on TV commercials and things, and it's like, just focus on your internet on your internet marketing, or marketing to gamers. Don't market this stuff to the general public. The general public is already going to do whatever it is that they're going to do. Like, you want to try and get gamers from other genres or who are a little bit on the fence about something. Market to those guys. Don't spend $5-10 million on a TV commercial to run where you're not going to get where your return on investment is going to be a lot lower, because you're marketing to people who don't own the consoles or don't own the PC hardware or don't own whatever or aren't interested because they're watching TV. They're not playing video games.
Well, there's also the flip side of this is, well, do you watch Super Bunny Hop?
No.
Okay, well, he's another YouTuber, and he had a breakdown of what happened to Hitman. I think it was actually released a couple of days ago. And one of his big things was marketing. Well, on top of the rather asinine choice of, instead of having it in 2 halves like they originally planned, bringing it up into 7. But there was also just a lack of marketing after the initial release. So they saw the initial push on the people that are willing to buy an episodic game, but then there was nothing really until a year later, and then you're marketing a year-old game. But yeah, that's also kind of the problem of episodic games in general, is how you deal with it. But it does bring up the kind of the flip side of, okay, well, if you miss the marketing push for the original release of Hitman, you're not going to really hear anything about it until the game is completely out. And that's over a year. And yeah, by then, that ship has kind of sailed.
Right.
I think marketing needs to be addressed by a game-by-game basis and not just a blanket, well, you shouldn't do TV ads, because for something like World of Warcraft, when it was in its heyday, not saying World of Warcraft is dead, it's just not in its heyday anymore by a long shot.
Right.
It makes sense for it to have a primetime ad when the expansion is coming out, because they're trying to get that new influx of people, or get the people that's fallen off of WoW more so than anything else. But for a very niche game, it doesn't make sense to have a TV ad. So something like, well, let's use Hitman once again for an example. Hitman is more of a niche game because of just simply its genre. It's a stealth game,
right?
At its core, it's a stealth shooter. And I would also, you could maybe argue a little bit of puzzle elements depending on how you play the game, but that's you're really starting to split hairs there. It's not going to have as broad of an appeal, so it may not need that mass market primetime ad.
Right. Well, and I wasn't just saying like that they shouldn't be advertised with commercials, but there are, I think, a lot fewer games that should have primetime commercials or TV spots than what these companies advertise nowadays. I think a lot more of your marketing budget, if you're still going to have this massive budget, needs to be spent in better areas, advertising to the people that are most likely to buy your game. But I mean, there's other ways to cut costs of games as well. I mean, so many games in the last few years have continued to show. I'm not exactly sure the best way to put it, but we've talked about this before. People want to buy games that aren't just massive, flashy, as realistic as possible, whatever games. People love Stardew Valley. People love Minecraft, for God's sakes. Minecraft looks like garbage. It's not always about graphics. People want to buy into these other genres, and I think that companies could either make a lot more money or save more money, or I'm not exactly sure the best way to put it, but release fewer massive AAA big budget titles, focus a lot more on those AA and indie style games.
Actually bring back the AA. That's a good point, is that you really see really two sets of budgets. You see the massive $20-30 million AAA releases, and then you see these small little releases. You don't really see a lot of the middling in middle of the road stuff. Maybe you can argue something like Everspace that we talked about before is pushing the AA sphere, but that's it's the exception to the rule.
Yeah. I mean, some of my, actually probably most of my favorite games fall into this sort of AA genre because they, instead of having the money to rely on these big budgets to rely on graphics to sell the game, they double down on gameplay mechanics and things like that, or storytelling elements.
Well, that's the thing, is that the AA's are sort of the big budget niche games for the most part, until you start getting to crazy pants territory like Square Enix, where because things like Thief, things like Hitman, those are big budget releases that are just, they don't make a lot of sense to be big budget releases,
right? Just
because they're a niche appeal,
right?
But getting back around to it, Take-Two is trying to really throttle the market. I think they're going to end up losing a lot of players doing this, just trying to grab every cent that they can. And personally, I haven't gotten GTA 5 or even really considered GTA 5 because of all the shark cards. Because I know a lot of people love the multiplayer scene, and our little group is starting to get into it. And I really have no interest in getting on the grind, because that's what the multiplayer is is just grinding out.
Yeah, grinding out or buying, tempting you to buy shark cards.
Or just, hope a hacker shows up.
Yeah.
And so,
sorry.
And it just makes me a little worried about Kerbal Space Program, what they're going to do with it. Granted, we don't know a lot about what they're doing with that, and I do want to kind of talk a little bit about Kerbal because, that is our roots. But, it doesn't warrant a full-blown topic, and it kind of bleeds into this a lot. Is that, what are they're taking essentially publisher rights from everything I can tell, because Squad is still in control of things, and they're still developing it, and they're still doing the expansion, but what are they going to do with this IP? And there's a lot that they can do. I imagine we're going to see a lot of merchandising, because that was the big thing when Minecraft got bought out, was that you started seeing merchandising all over the place. Not saying that there wasn't before, but there was a huge explosion of it.
Yeah, I've heard or have seen a lot of stuff referring to this as like, well, they're going to do what they did with Minecraft, because I mean, KSP is pretty popular. It's definitely a niche game, but as far as niche games go, it's fairly popular and successful. So it would make sense for them to buy it, to have merchandising rights and things like that, and not touch it at all, or have very little input. Because if they wreck the game and damage all the relations that they have with the players, then they wouldn't be able to sell them future products that build off of KSP. I don't know how you could do this, but a KSP2 or any future expansions that they want to charge money for or whatever.
On top of the one that they've already announced, of course.
Right. But, if they wreck the game, then the player base who's there is just going to leave. Or, stick to the older versions of the games and not buy, or the game, and not buy into the whatever's new. So, it makes sense that they would do that, but I mean, I have no faith that they will, honestly.
Yeah,
I'd like to be wrong, but I don't.
Is that it's very hard to have faith when they're talking about wanting to make more money. or I shouldn't sound so negative. I know, there's a first. About making money, because that's what these companies are in it for. But there's a difference between making money and just throttling people.
Right.
Yeah. And I think they're pushing the line here.
Yeah, I do too. But I mean, we'll see. I hope I'm wrong, but companies and just all of this history of things like this happening, most of the time they go bad. Minecraft is the exception, not the rule. Yeah,
especially whenever the announcement, it's like every other indie game that I've seen, or indie company bought out, it's like, we promise this isn't going to change things. Guess what? It's changing things. Only way I could see this as a worse thing, just off on the outset without really any other info, was if EA bought them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because EA, they have just a graveyard full of old indie development studios that they gutted and left for dead, or just killed off completely.
Yeah. I think Minecraft really is the only...
Yeah,
it's the only one that's coming to mind.
Yeah, Minecraft is the only one I can think of as well that Microsoft bought them out and basically let Mojang just continue to do their thing. The big thing was that Minecraft saw their port to the Windows 10 store, and that was about it.
Yeah. Well, got anything else to add, or is it time to move on?
Oh, well, I think we're lucky that I've had days to cool down, because when I first saw this, I was exceptionally angry.
Yeah, you texted me the other day, and you were pissed. I could see it in your text message.
Can you blame me? Especially with the tone of, it's under-monetizing its users.
Yeah. I might play some KSP this week before Take-Two goes and fucks it all up.
Well, let's just put it this way. There's a lot of people saying to back up either the previous version or 1.3.
Yeah. I'll probably
honestly,
back up 1.3. No, I can't blame him either. Okie dokie. Well, let's move on to our next news topic then. More than just skin, how hentai games are seducing new audiences. And this is a Forbes article, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I saw this last week, late last week, and thought it was very interesting, talking about how, sex games and sex end games are kind of tantalizing a new audience. And it's something that Steam is really starting to get on board with. A lot of the visual novels particularly are allowing adult patches now and trying to, tantalize and titillate their audiences.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go with this? Because there's a couple of ways that we could approach this.
I'm not sure. I mean, the article is basically just saying, hey, to people who I assume their audience are non-gamers, like, hey, here's how the gaming landscape is changing a little bit, and how that porn games are starting to become something more than just like these silly little flash games where you smack the boobies or whatever until the penis comes. So
yeah, I think I was more shocked about this article not being sex negative, because that's what a lot about gaming articles have been, is just really talking down about hentai games and porn games, and not even pure porn games, but anything that really shows more skin than your average bikini would show.
Yeah.
I mean, but we are also seeing a lot of changes in the gaming landscape. I mean, hell, the latest Mass Effect game has boobies in it.
Yeah. Gotta play that.
Granted, there's not a lot more in the latest Mass Effect other than boobies, but there are tits. Matter of fact, it's kind of funny looking back at it. The Mass Effect now is what CNN was saying that Mass Effect was 10 years ago.
I'm not sure it's quite that, but it's closer for sure.
Where they were talking about how it had full frontal nudity, and I will admit that after hearing about this and seeing this article, I went to look up what the sex scenes were, because I'll be perfectly honest, I have zero interest to play Mass Effect Andromeda. There's just too many derp faces and too much blah gameplay from what I could tell to really want to dive into it, at least at this point. Maybe if they patch it and after, I imagine that there's probably going to be some DLC for it.
Well, they've already patched it. They've fixed a lot of the issues with like the faces looking weird and the jank animations. Like that patch came out like a week or two after the game launched.
Yeah, but they still have a long ways to go. But it's one of those things that it's just kind of strange how games are considered so sex negative, because it is a big part of life. I mean, it is literally the beginning of life. Guess what? Your parents fucked.
Yeah, they did.
And who knows? Your father may have actually fucked your mother. Sorry.
There was have you ever seen $1 Million Butt, the Rooster Teeth
no.
what if game? Well, there's one where it's like one of the things, it's like the premise is like you get $1,000,000, but something really weird or dumb happens. Right. And one of them was like, you get $1,000,000, but every year on your birthday, you have to watch the moment when you were conceived. And one of them that was on the show that day brought up, it's like, what happens if like you're watching it for the first time and it's like, holy shit, that's not my dad. But anyways, I digress. Yeah, I agree. I love that this is not a sex negative article. It doesn't really seem like super sex positive. It seems fairly neutral.
Yeah, it's more just saying, well, this is a thing. And talk to a couple journalists about it, really.
I think that this shows that gaming is starting to mature as a medium. Like, I mean,
I'm not sure if I would say it's maturing. I would say that it's more being viewed as more than just, jump on Goomba.
Right. That's what I meant. It's starting to be viewed as more of like, hey, this thing has been around for long enough that maybe it's not just a toy for kids. Maybe this does deserve a little bit more consideration and respect, like film or books or whatever. And I like that. I mean, we've known that for forever. But the general public, especially the public who doesn't play games, I mean, I would assume that Forbes' demographic skews a bit older.
Yeah.
You know, those people are less likely to be playing games. It's like, oh, hey, I guess the video games that my son or my grandson or whatever plays, or my daughter, my granddaughter, they might be tackling some adult themes. That's interesting.
Now, it is funny that they bring up mostly Honey Pop, though.
Honey Pop is the best. God, I love Honey Pop.
Never played it.
It's a cute, fun little match 3 type puzzler game on the surface, and it's actually like, I mean, it's a solid puzzle game with solid dating sim elements. It's not like just a garbage game. And then at the end, if you play the puzzle game well enough, you get dim boobies. That's what I like. But yeah, I mean, we didn't have a ton to say on this. We weren't sure how long exactly we'd talk about it, but I agree with you. I'm really glad to see.
Well, it's more of a surprise that, it's just really kind of neutral. It's not being overly positive, but it's definitely not being negative. And I think that's the bigger thing, isn't that it's, that they're talking about it. It's that they're not talking about it in a negative light.
Right. It's nice to see that this is treated as a mature adult thing, a mature adult activity, hobby, concept, whatever, instead of just being like, oh, them kids' games have now got porn in it. You better hide your kids' eyes. Don't want them to see the porn.
Yeah, I wonder what game outside of Honey Pop they should have talked about, because I didn't really think about this. Honey Pop isn't exactly the most shining example of adult content in games that, is more than just titillation.
I would have liked to have seen them talk about...
I would have went with something like the Witcher series.
Yeah, I was going to say The Witcher, maybe Mass Effect,
or even just go into the visual novels. But, then you start running into the whole, is this a game thing?
Yeah.
But, it's, visual novels is on that kind of bleeding edge of between game and story that I think it could be a gateway to a lot of people, well, especially for anime fans, though, but to bring in more adult themes, because there are some very, very dark visual novels out there.
Yeah, there are.
And some of them are not even made in Japan.
True. Some of them are not. Cool. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah, I think so.
Excellent. Well, let's move on to our next news topic then. Steam Direct and upcoming store updates.
Yeah, well, and also the death of Greenlight, because Greenlight, we're calling it on the 6th of June, 2017. It is dead.
Yep.
And I kind of want to do a little bit of a post-mortem on Greenlight as well as we talk about this. Should we talk about that first? Because, that's what's going away with this.
Sure.
I think Greenlight, it was an interesting experiment, but it honestly fell flat because they never really incentivized people to go through it. So it was more of just who was able to campaign more instead of the general public sorting through and picking out the games that they want to go on Steam, like Valve wanted them to be.
Yeah. I think Greenlight was a really good idea that was very poorly executed. I mean, there were some great games that came off of Greenlight, but there was a lot of garbage that came off of Greenlight because Valve didn't curate it properly. They didn't have proper incentives for folks to go and actually check out the stuff and vote on it more than, like you said, like these whole companies were created to push Greenlight games, and they would just give away copies of other games and things like that in order to get games voted through on Greenlight. So, great idea, just very poorly implemented and didn't receive the support that it needed to really make a concept like this work.
Which honestly is, kind of a history of Valve. They have a decent idea and they don't really support it properly, so they just let it kind of just linger on the vine and die off eventually.
I really hope Valve's learned their lesson. We talked about this a few weeks ago when it happened, or maybe it was a few months ago at this point, but
when Steam Direct was originally announced.
Yeah, and they're saying they're committing to being more hands-on with things. And I really hope that that's the case. I mean, I don't know what their definition of that is actually going to be when it comes to, when rubber meets the road, but I hope
they have
Greenlight
look at it every so often.
I hope that Greenlight and some of their other things, they've really actually learned from their mistakes. I think they kind of have to. Even though Steam is still the biggest dog around, other services like EA Origin and Ubisoft's Uplay, those are gaining some traction, as is GOG, and there's starting to be enough competition. Even though it's small, there's enough competition to prompt them to change.
Well, the thing is, GOG has a brilliant thing about getting more people to show up. I mean, just look at the GOG Connect.
Yeah.
Oh, a matter of fact, the day we're recording this, they put another batch of games on their Connect system. 40 games. And I could hear you typing away to get on this.
I should. I check GOG Connect every once in a while, so.
Well, I added something like 16 games to my GOG collection today from my Steam library.
Nice.
And, this is a huge gateway for them. And it's a deal that doesn't cost them a lot. It costs them some bandwidth. But this is something that they're able to strike with the developers or the publishers, depending on who's handling the deal, to get more people to get on GOG. And this is a novel thing that they're doing, and Valve has to really, really watch their back, because you can only kind of just coast for so long.
Yeah, and you can only I would say you can only bleed out for so long, even if it's a few users here, a few users there, a chunk here or there to each of these different places. I mean, one of them, maybe GOG could give them a run for their money in the next year or so.
Well, GOG is starting to get more of a library. That's the big thing, is that you have so many alternatives to Steam, but you don't really have anything that has a combined library like Steam has. Because you have Uplay, you have Origin. Both of those are single publishers for the most part. There are some indie games or some third-party games. Now you have Blizzard, that has 4 games on it with Destiny 2 coming out on it, which Destiny 2 being on the Blizzard launcher is a pretty big thing of itself. That's actually the first non-Blizzard game on it. GOG is really the only major one that has a third-party launch, or a third-party launcher, the Steam-like launcher, that has more than just their first-party games.
Right.
And, they do have CD Projekt Red stuff, and that is technically first-party with them. It's the same overall company. But they, just look at what they released in the last couple months, or just the GOG Connect. I mean, that's a lot of games from other companies that they're bringing in.
Right. So yeah, I mean, Steam can only bleed for so long, to so many paper cuts, basically.
Yeah,
before
exactly.
They're gonna wake up one day and they're gonna go, oh, we're not the market leader anymore. Maybe they're not in the last place. I could find it hard to believe that Steam would drop below Uplay or even Origin. It's like, if GOG's pretty close to their level, it's all of a sudden it's like, oh Lord, what do we do?
I would say Valve wakes up before they lose first place. But what I think GOG is right now the big contender to be a potential market leader.
Right.
I don't think they would lose first place, but GOG would be a lot more powerful. When we start seeing AAA titles releasing on GOG instead of Steam. Completely.
Right.
I think that'll be the wake-up call for Valve. But getting back to Greenlight, Greenlight was just really a dumping ground. And that's what I'm concerned about with Steam Direct. Is that it'll turn the front page of the Steam store into just literally a dumping ground of whatever person was able to cobble together $100 to pay Valve, because that's the in fee is $100, and then you have to pass some scrutiny, which who knows what that does, because Valve is being very hush hush about that from everything I can tell, and you're done.
Yeah, and then the fee is returned once the game's sold $1,000 worth of. Has got $1,000 in sales.
That's not a lot actually. That's a very low bar for a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, if your game costs $10, that's 100 sales. So, I don't know how I feel about the $100 barrier point. We talked about this at length as well a few months ago.
There has to be there's a definite place where it makes sense, but $100 that happened to be the entry point for Greenlight itself.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so tough. Like,
you don't want to have it too big because you start running into problems of the single man development team. Not really, maybe not having faith in their game, or maybe not just be able to afford it, because it may just be someone's spare project that they did in their spare time. But then you start seeing, okay, well, some of these just essentially card farm games, they can throw $100 together and sell their game for 50 cents during a Steam sale.
Right. Yeah, I don't. I feel like $100 is too low. I think probably like $500 is probably the good mark. Like all those, I think 500 is just enough for the people who are like, let's see if I can make some money on this. Aren't gonna do it. But that's not so much that the one-man dev team is like, you know what, I'd like to give this a shot. I mean, I'd spend $500 on something like that. I'd roll the dice for $500. But I'm not sure I would for like 1,000. Like I think that's too high. But $100, I mean, I would, if I wanted to cobble some shit together and see if I could make $1,000 on it, I'd spend $100 on that. Why not?
Well, they also said that there is a 30-day waiting period for developers that they've never worked with before, and that's supposedly their scrutiny period. Like I said, there's no idea what that scrutiny is. That may just be an intern firing up the game to see if Norton Antivirus flips its shit or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
But it does have there is a very interesting time frame on this, because Steam Direct launches next week, and the week after that is the Steam Summer Sale. So we're going to probably see a lot of games from developers that have already gotten past that 30-day window where they don't have to go through it to quickly get their game out before the Steam Summer Sale. I'll be shocked that if we don't see just a flood of games. But I think the big flood is going to happen mid-July. Yeah,
I think so too. Because as soon as it opens, there'll be a whole bunch of people that submit. Then they have to go through the 30-day waiting period, and then we'll see a flood of games, and then we'll just go from there. I would love to know what their scrutiny actually is. They probably won't tell us. Valve always keeps that stuff real close to their chest, but I'd love to know what it is, just to get an idea of how difficult it actually is to get past this.
Yeah, I certainly hope it's just not intern firing up to see if Norton flips its shit or not.
I mean, I think that should definitely be part of the scrutiny. Like, does the game launch? But does it have a virus?
No, just to see if Norton Antivirus goes nuts. Just picking like one of the worst versions of the antivirus that I can think of just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But did they? I can't recall if they talked about how they're going to deal with just all the games coming out, how are they going to present this? Because I imagine the front page is just going to be almost like a ticker tape of games coming out. So how are we going to see categorization on this? Are they going to rely on discovery, or are they going to do something else with this? Because, aren't they also supposed to be doing something with curators? But I haven't seen anything about that lately.
Yeah, nothing's been mentioned about that new curation system since it was mentioned.
Originally announced.
Yeah, which was like a month or two ago, I think.
Yeah, and that was supposed to be with the direct system.
Yeah, they were supposed to come out at the same time or real close to each other. I mean, I suppose they could just announce it next week or something, but...
Yeah, which means I'm likely going to have to dive into the curator. Not looking forward to that. Because it's something like a year out of date now.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's real bad.
Yeah, it's almost as old as the Jambalaya Grooves crate.
Oh, here it is. It's in this article, actually. They mentioned it, but there's no time frame, no dates. They're just talking about the system again.
Yeah, Curator is also another system that, they released. It's a decent idea. It needed refinement, and there's been really no updates to it outside of make it so that someone mentioning something in a Curator isn't automatically considered positive.
Yeah.
I don't think they've really counted on the Curator system being used like it has been, especially like the frame rate police, or the censorship watch, or the multiple censorship watches that I follow, where a game appearing in that Curator is not a good thing, or may not be a good thing, and it's just something that they completely overlook the possibility of, even.
Yeah.
Do you think, getting back to Greenlight real quick, do you think they may have done themselves a disservice with how they passed games when they did, whenever a class of Greenlight games came out, it was usually 50 to 100 games at once? Do you think it would have made more sense if they did it more regularly but smaller groups? So you're able to go through them and say, oh, well, that game made it. That's kind of cool. Instead of, holy shit, that's a lot of games.
Yeah, they definitely should have done it in smaller batches, but more frequent batches.
But then again, what the Greenlight system had was, it had one major flaw in that it was literally a popularity contest. And that there's games that was passed that were canceled before they even saw an early access or a version, or an early access equivalent version. Like, let's pick one almost at random. Yog Ventures.
Yeah. I forgot all about Yog Ventures.
Thankfully, I didn't kickstart that piece of garbage.
Neither did I.
A lot of people did. But Yog Ventures, I'm pretty sure, was a Greenlight game.
Is the Yogscast still popular?
I have no idea.
I never really cared about them to start with, but...
Yes, it was a Kickstarter game. It was a Kickstarter game, but it did make it through the Greenlight system as well, and it never saw a release version at all. Matter of fact, I'm not even sure if they are still popular, like you said.
Yeah.
And they made a lot of their popularity on Minecraft, and this was essentially a Minecraft clone.
Yeah.
Minecraft clone with the better-looking player models. I don't get why this was popular. Well, outside of, it's Yog Venture, or it's Yogscast Crew.
Let's see. Well, they still have 7 million... Oh, video playing. They still have like 7.3 million viewers, so I'd say they're still popular. Is there a way to view a history of viewers? Like, is that more or less than they had?
There is. I would have to hunt it down real quick, though. So chatter away for a bit. Talk about Greenlight.
I don't really know what else to say about Greenlight. We've said pretty much everything. I was getting ready to move on. There could just be a bit of editing.
Let's see. Social Blade. They've lost 3,200 subscribers in the last 30 days.
Okay.
I'm having to dive through some stats here. I mean, they are definitely still popular, but their average views are on a downward trend. Well, let's put it this way, all right? This ought to give you an idea. June 2012, it looks like to be their, January 2012 is about their peak popularity and average views per day. Well, January to July, the first half of that year, they were getting on a daily view count 3.25 billion views. All right.
Damn.
Or never mind. There's one that's 3.36 million. Now, 500,000.
Oh, that's a huge drop.
Let's see.
I mean, 500,000 views is still a ton compared, but
that's an absolutely huge drop.
Yeah.
July 2012. I mean, I realize, this is a long time ago, and this is around the time of the Kickstarter, if I recall correctly. Was several years ago now. July 2012, monthly views, 104 and a third million. Today, 17.55.
Man.
And they're huge on the downward spiral on on subscribers. As a matter of fact, they had one time here where they, I'm not sure what happened. What happened to them July of last year? Because they had an absolutely massive spike of losing subscribers.
Well, I'm looking at a couple of old Reddit threads where people are talking about them, and it looks like they made some big changes to their content.
I wonder if that was around the time that Simon was calling out Total Biscuit.
Maybe.
Because they had a big fight at some point. And let's just put it this way. All their future trends are on Social Blade are looking downward.
Well, all right. Learn about the Oxcast today.
Hey, who knows where you'll end up on this show, right?
Very true. Where we go, nobody knows. I don't really have anything else to add, though, to the Steam discussion. I think we're pretty much done with that, considering we've moved to talking about the Yogscast, a group that neither of us really care about. So, we're getting pretty close to the 2-hour mark on a recording. Do you need a break, or are we good to keep going?
I could probably top off water.
Okay, then let us take a moment to take a break, and we'll be right back. And we're back, and that's more than we can say for the player base of For Honor. See that segue? I'm like fist bumping, or like fist pumping, not bumping. Really proud of that. Our next news topic, For Honor has lost 95% of its player base, which is worse than the Division 1 year ago. Yeah,
quite the ghost town For Honor is, huh? Or has become, I should say. And I'll go play a little bit of devil's advocate on this, is that it seems like they're working off of mostly the Steam stats, and that isn't 100% in the player base on PC, because if you buy it through like Amazon, you will get a Uplay code, and that won't show up on the Steam charts. That's saying, that's still not a lot of people.
Also, this isn't considering console numbers.
Yeah, this is focused on the PC version.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
I just wanted to play a little bit of devil's advocate. I mean, granted, I may be incredibly harsh, and I may bash Ubisoft left, right, and center, but damn it, I'm fair.
Actually, it's very surprising to see you play, to be a little bit nice to a Ubisoft title.
Oh, don't worry, that's about the end of it, because they brought this on them fucking selves with this. I mean, we played, about 2-3 hours of the beta for this? Or sorry, the server stress test, because I refuse to call that a beta. That is not a beta. That is a server stress test. You should be calling it a server stress test. A beta is whenever you're testing for bugs, not to see if your servers can also, wait. Why am I saying this is a server stress test? You do not have servers. It's all peer-to-peer. You have a matchmaking server, and that is it. And I didn't even play the full time we played the on that stream night, because I absolutely despised it. I was having issues with people teleporting, and guess what? When this game released, what happened? People were teleporting because they were abusing the peer-to-peer system. So they brought this on themselves. But that's the thing, is that in the end of the day, this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter because of one thing. They already have your money. It doesn't matter if you're still playing the game. They got you. Your money is already with them. And the thing is that people are going to look at this and say, well, people just don't buy the next game. Well, that's been proven wrong time and time and time again. Unfortunately.
Rage, as you talk, I get the sense that you're holding something back. Why don't you just tell us how you really feel about this whole issue?
Fuck Ubisoft. Well, that is the thing, is that Ubisoft doesn't have to have their player base active, because this isn't a MMO. They aren't getting a monthly fee. Their big thing was the season pass and, of course, microtransactions, which, they aren't making a lot of microtransactions if there's not a player base, but, microtransactions are kind of the icing on the cake these days, or at least for Ubisoft. Take-Two, wants to take it all, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
The big thing is that pre-order and the season pass. So you haven't said a lot on this.
I've just been letting you go for a minute.
Let me get it all out. A therapy technique.
Yep. I'm really good at listening, guys. Really, really good. Kind of have to do it for a living. Angry. Yeah. Let me take a sip of my drink here, then I'll proceed. I'm not surprised to see this happen.
Considering it's happened time and time and time again with Ubisoft titles, and the thing is that they still sell well enough that it hasn't become a problem. Well, for anyone that isn't trying to play the game, of course. There is the oddity. The Division did see a resurgence, but that was more because that they released essentially the flavor of the month DLC. Because the big thing, I'm blanking on what they called it, but the Division saw a huge resurgence because they essentially released a Battle Royale mode in their game. And that's become sort of the flavor of the month. It's between that and open world survival, like, Ark, like Conan, a matter of fact, I just got one that's a steampunk version of essentially the same thing. That's the two major flavors of the month right now, and they released a DLC that really got that essentially nomadic tribe of gamers to say, we'll try the Division, or maybe got some players back that just happened to be in that group.
Well, another thing going in the Division's favor was that it had a lot more content that was geared towards single and cooperative play. True. Whereas For Honor doesn't. I mean, it has its single player campaign. You can always play with bots, but that's not what most players went to For Honor for. And the problem was the big mode that they pushed and put all the time into is plagued by people buying power through the microtransactions and things like that, it's the big 4v4 mode.
Yeah, that's the one that they pushed in all the marketing campaigns. Even though you would think that, For Honor is at its core a third-person fighting game. You would think that a lot of the push would be in the single player, the two-player duel mode, 1v1. But it's kind of an afterthought, really. I mean, all the gear turns to cosmetic. One in the 4v4, it's power. And I think the average gamer, if they look at two modes, if they compare them side by side, and they see one, they feel a lot more powerful, and they have that, cooperative play as well. Well, well, to be honest, it's there's not a lot of cooperative. It's more just yelling at one another.
Yeah.
Or 1v1 where it comes down to individual skill and your power turns into cosmetics. I think it's going to push people into the 4v4 naturally before you even get to the whole. Oh, I don't feel good enough to play 1v1. But I may be able to hold my own with a team.
Right. Yeah, it's the writing was on the wall from the beginning. And we were worried about it in the beta. I was a little more optimistic than you are because I really liked the game, and I'm
a wet blanket.
I tend to be more optimistic anyways, but even I was worried back then, and they basically did everything to screw it up for the long term.
Hell, when we were in the beta, I was looking at the stores like, I'm seeing so many places for microtransactions here.
Yeah.
And I was right. I was absolutely right. I don't want to be right. I hate being right when it comes to this, but I was.
Yeah.
It's just so depressing because we're seeing this time and time again with Ubisoft. And at some point, there has to be a tipping point, really. Doesn't there? There does, right? But then again, Ubisoft, they do... their multiplayer experiences last... Well, for about 6 months or so, unless you're The Division, which is all resurgence, or Rainbow Six Siege, which for some reason is still ongoing. I have, you'd think that would be a game that would die off really quickly, but since it's a very tactical game and has a lot of deep elements, usually that's kind of a death sentence for a shooter, really.
Yeah, but they turned it around. They with some updates and some DLC and releasing some different versions of the game,
also
like the starter edition.
I was about to say they went essentially almost a free-to-play. Not quite, but almost.
Yeah.
That's like the the one shining example. Rainbow Six Siege, and then it's like stupidity over stupidity.
Yeah. Anything else to... I mean, I don't...
Yeah, it was just kind of died off there for a moment. We're like a Ubisoft game.
I mean, like I said, I saw this coming. I'm not surprised. You got your anger out.
The second link in this, I think, is a reason why we saw such a huge drop-off was For Honor finally slays rage quitters as promised with newly released update. Dated June 3rd, 2017. Yeah. I think I found the problem. The fact that they weren't punishing rage quitters in a team-based game, and unless they dramatically improved from the beta, I remember the bots not being exceptionally smart when it came to combat overall, and that's not really that's not a detriment to For Honor individually, because that's typically how it is for AI in a multiplayer based game, is that the AI is typically brain dead compared to a player. But
right.
Having it where there's no punishment or very little punishment for a player that just drops when they're losing is just going to encourage people to drop, and it just makes it so that it gets more and more frustrating, and that's on top of all the other issues that For Honor had naturally. It's like they didn't want this game to succeed at all.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Feels that way. I don't know. I feel like they really wanted it to succeed, but they focused on the wrong things, and maybe Ubisoft pushed them a little bit, being the publisher for For Honor, in certain directions, or maybe they just took the wrong lessons from other game launches, but...
Well, the moment that they announced that it was peer-to-peer, that's no. You don't do that with a multiplayer game like this. Because, it's just asking for way too many issues. Especially in a game that requires almost frame-perfect dodges and attacks.
Yeah.
It's the peer-to-peer system is the reason why I have no interest in Destiny 2. Because, the moment you get a host that has a bad internet connection, that's just, your day's ruined.
Yeah. I got my hopes up for Destiny 2. I love Destiny 1. I would have called that a guilty pleasure game, but I have no such thing as guilty pleasure, so it's just a pleasure game.
You have no such thing as shame.
Nope. So I've got...
Besides, I'm already playing Destiny. It's called Warframe.
I'm just happy that it's coming out on PC.
Yeah, I will say that I am glad that it's coming out on PC. I just hope it's a lot better than what my initial expectation is.
It's got more Nathan Fillion in it. That's never a bad thing.
I bet you wish you had more Nathan Fillion in you.
Damn right you do. Or I do.
Projecting, aren't you?
I've talked at length about my love for Nathan Fillion on Straight as a Pretzel. So, if anyone wants to go listen to that. Ding. Okie dokie. Well, moving swiftly on to our next topic, which this is probably going to be the lightning round.
Yeah, really.
First of the short topics, Battleborn goes free to play, sort of.
Oh, Battleborn. The game that has more champions in it than players.
Yep.
I won't take credit for that. I've seen a few people commenting on variations of that. But, I couldn't pass that up. And honestly, that's still kind of the case. I've been keeping an eye on the Steam charts today just to see what the Playerbase does. And they've almost broke 1,000.
Yeah.
That's depressing, isn't it? Is that you release... Well, we should say what this is. Well, first of all, Battleborn, if you don't recognize it, it's one of our whipping boys. It's, I guess, a champion-based shooter is the best way to call it. Think of it as that essentially Overwatch only with more MOBA elements. And part of the reason why it failed was that they went head-to-head against Overwatch.
And Blizzard don't put up with that shit. So,
I think they released a week before Overwatch did, if I recall correctly, or within a week. And a lot of their campaign was saying that we're like Overwatch, but we release a week early. Yeah, that turned out wonderful for them.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I'm looking at the Steam Top 100, and they did not make the list.
Yeah, I'm, since it's free, what the free part is that you get access to all of the multiplayer stuff, and then it goes very League of Legends, or, like, any of these type of games where there's going to be a rotation of the heroes.
MOBAs. Yeah, according to the article or the announcement, there's a rotation of 6 champions, out of the roster of 30. And you're able to grind out the champions with in-game currency. But if you want to play the single player, you have to buy it or get the premium currency, which, let's be perfectly honest, nobody really wanted to play the single player that bought the game. It was one of the major complaints I saw about the game was, a lot of the stuff was locked behind single player to begin with. As a matter of fact, before you even got to the multiplayer mode, you had to play through a couple levels of the single player. That just turned off a lot of people right away.
Yeah. I think that's pretty stupid. I mean, I would enjoy the single player because I buy games for single player modes like Call of Duty, and eventually I'm going to buy For Honor when it's like $5, and I'll play through the single player, and I'll love it.
Yeah, you'll be like one of 5 people that's playing it.
It's fine with me. I'm not going to be playing with those 5 people, so what do I care? But I do think it's dumb to lock multiplayer content behind single player, having to do single player.
They may have changed it ever since because, Battleborn is... I will give them credit for this, is that they did continue to support Battleborn, even though it was kind of stillborn. Well, just look at the Steam charts. Yeah, it starts off great for about 5 seconds, and the player base just plummets.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? They may make it come around, or may make it turn around. Evolve had their player numbers jump up a ton when they first went free to play. They didn't have a lot of systems in place. I think they jumped the gun on their free to play.
Yeah, perhaps.
But Battleborn might be able to turn this around, going free to play and properly monetizing things. Not cheating or I should say fairly pricing things.
Yeah, Evolve had no microtransactions at all when it originally went free to play.
Right.
But I'm looking at the Steam charts right now, and they went from about 100-ish players with dips overnight of below 50, which is just depressing. Up to about 800 or so players just today. So that is quite the improvement. Granted, you could say that, it's a 10 times improvement, but 10 times 100 is not an impressive player base.
No, it's not, but who knows? I wish him the best. Battleborn really looked like a much better game to me than Overwatch, just because I like the fact that it had more PvE content in it. But
the major problem, at least from everything I read review-wise, because I may bash Battleborn, but for good reason. I read the reviews. A lot of the problems Battleborn had was with map design, where they focused a lot on choke points, like a MOBA game. But the problem is that a lot of their abilities was mass AoE insta-kills, and it turned into just who could hold the choke points. And that's not a very interesting shooter. That doesn't work well with the shooter genre.
Right.
Even, let's just use a game that I know very well, Team Fortress 2. Yes, it has choke points built into it, but there's also ways around it. There's ways to break a good hold if you're a good enough player and you're good enough with team play. Granted, I realize this is a bit apples to oranges because Battleborn is also technically a MOBA. It has that MOBA element of push-pull, while Team Fortress 2 it doesn't really have anything quite like that. But still, the elements are still there. The design philosophy for the maps still plays a good part at that. Where you never have a singular choke point. There's always a second route. Sometimes there's a third route. And that's even before you start getting into some of the craziness that really skilled players could do with rocket jumping and sticky jumping and just being a sneaky, stabby, backstabbing bastard. It's just map design 101.
Right.
And there's a reason why Battleborn fell off, and that's why. It'll be interesting to see if they could hold on to their player base, because that's the thing. You get essentially a free pass on marketing whenever you release they don't want to call it free to play because they're locking the single player content behind it, and they're calling it some sort of trial, which is utterly stupid. You want to call this free to play to get more people attempted, or to attempt to get more people in, but you get that little extra bit of marketing from all the people talking about, hey, Battleborn went free to play or free trial or whatever. Well, if you squander this, you're dead. It'll be interesting to see if they hold on to any player base. If the changes that they've made over the past year and a half, or 2 years, from whenever they launched, I don't remember the launch date exactly. It'll be interesting to see if they hold on to their players.
Yeah, I hope they do.
Even the Battleborn weekend. Remember the big talk that they had, Battleborn weekend, and they never had a sale that weekend, which was utterly stupid because that was their other big chance to get a resurrection of their player base. Was the players themselves were trying to have this big event weekend to get people in and get people interested in the game, and the developer and the publisher refused to have a sale. They did a sale of the in-game heroes, but never of the game itself when it was still a paid title. Utterly stupid.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to download it and check it out and see if it plays well. If it does, we'll do it I'll run it for a stream night. I mean, you don't have to come. Nobody has to come. But,
I proved that with War Thunder.
Yeah. But that's better for everyone, because you get real mad at War Thunder.
Gee, thanks.
Well, it's better for you too, because you don't run the risk of having a heart attack from your blood pressure getting so high.
No, I was starting to get my blood pressure high because I was also playtesting Everspace at that point.
Right. Just can't ever quit, can you? But anyways.
So,
cool.
How about another whipping boy?
Yep. Let's move on to our next topic, which is No Man's Sky still in development? ?
Yeah, this is more of a rumor territory because it's someone asking on Twitter, hey, are you still working on No Man's Sky? Because they've kind of gone radio silent again.
Yep.
And they tweeted out, we're promised we're still under development. And that's that's it for one article. And then there's some sort of weird thing with audio tapes going around, which may be some sort of ARG or maybe just people goofing around or who knows what. But it's also related to No Man's Sky.
Yeah, but I mean, there's literally no information about that other than like, hey, this is a thing they're doing.
Or that's the thing, is that they're not even sure if it's a thing that they're doing. It's just they're not saying anything. But that's not exactly new for Hello Games because unless they're pumping up a release, they go radio silent very easily.
Yeah. No Man's Sky is currently at a 41%. Its overall is 32%, but its most recent is 41%.
Still, better than Trump.
That is better than Trump.
Sorry, couldn't resist. Can't blame me there.
Looks like the last update they put out was March 27th.
Actually, let's see. Steam charts, No Man's Sky. Wow. 24-hour peak, 671.
Yeah, I see that here.
Wow. I could see when the base building update launched because it went from 1,000 to 7,000 pretty much overnight. And then just plummets again. Oh, No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is a damn roller coaster on their Steam charts.
Let's see, the Pathfinder update was the most recent content edition, which was the one after the base building update.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. They put in the rovers, didn't they?
Yeah.
I was too busy not caring about that.
Yeah, I didn't care about it either.
It seems like they want to have... they want to build... get into the open world base builder genre. Like I was talking about before, there's a lot of nomadic gamers with that subgenre. I have no idea why that one genre just has this massive nomadic base, but it's there. And it seems like they're trying to capitalize on it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Kind of makes sense because of the kind of game that they are roaming to and from. A game where you roam around, look for resources, build a base, then go somewhere else, look for resources, build a base.
I'm going to disagree with that simply for the second part of what you said. Go somewhere else. It doesn't make sense to build a base if you're constantly moving around and exploring.
Lots of these people do that.
Well, it does make sense for the freighter, the base ship that you get, but for what they were touting, for most of what their announcements were for the base builder release, they talked more about planetary bases and only mentioned the fact that, oh yeah, all this happens to be also available on this giant fuck off ship that you could get as well. Yeah, it sounds like just an afterthought when that should have been the focus.
Yeah.
Because that makes more sense in the game design overall.
Yeah. I agree with that, for sure. I haven't thought about No Man's Sky in forever. It's just kind of...
Yeah, we haven't broke out the glue bottle. We haven't broke out the glue bottle in ages.
Yeah, it's just fallen off the radar. This
is another one of those games that sold massively and just dropped off player base wise. I mean, granted, this one doesn't really matter as much because it's not multiplayer. Oh wait, it's multiplayer because there's leaderboards. I forgot about that. Sean Murray, you lying sack of shit. But it's one of those games that there are so many people bought, so many people played the first week and realized, wow, this is a lot more shallow than I thought this was ever going to be. Then again, No Man's Sky was touting itself to be literally everything, it seemed. Or, no, I should take that back. They weren't touting that they were. They were letting people assume that they were. It never corrected them.
Yeah.
Which is just so dishonest. A lie of omission is still a lie, in my opinion. And that's what I pretty much view how Hello Games handled No Man's Sky. And I just wonder if we see another update from No Man's Sky, will it bring back enough players to make it attractive in a Steam sale? Or do you think do you think they're finally working on that multiplayer component that they were touting about?
Nope.
Well, that's a definitive answer.
Nope, and I don't give a shit. I gave No Man's Sky a few chances. I mean, we went over it in depth, and ultimately, I'm done. I'll probably never play it again.
It's a screenshot generator.
Yep, and I don't really care that much for screenshots.
If I wanted to play No Man's Sky, you know what I would do?
Go to sleep?
Well, first of all, not, but second of all, I'll just download Space Engine.
Yeah.
Space Engine, and then occasionally fire up, I don't know, Minecraft maybe, or one of my many base builder games.
Yeah.
No. I know what I would do. I'd go to Space Engine, fly around for a bit, then get bored and fire up RimWorld. Because RimWorld will keep my attention for ages.
Indeed it will. I saw your tweet about your current RimWorld playthrough lasting for like 6 months or something. So
yeah. The first episode of Dingy was in January.
Nice.
And I just recorded another batch of episodes last night. Not saying how many, but there was another batch recorded.
Well, I'm looking at it. We're actually going longer this week than we have in past weeks, thanks to our myriad of news topics. So let's move it along to our last rapid fire topic. Evolve, that is the land software, not the game, is shutting down.
Yeah, I mostly include this just for the trifecta because, Battleborn and No Man's Sky Evolve. But this is kind of important because this is one of the was one of the major ways to play older games. Because, before you would be able to get together in a group, in a room and Evolve, and launch up a virtual LAN and play a local and massive sarcasm quotes, LAN game of games that either don't support over internet play or have had their servers turned off and only have LAN play now. So this is actually kind of a bigger deal than just, laughing, haha, Evolve, No Man's Sky, Battleborn.
Yeah, we use Evolve, or we have, to play games like Factorio and things, because Factorio, at least I don't know if they've added this yet, they say they're going to, but didn't use Steam's built-in multiplayer, what is it, Steamworks?
Yeah.
It doesn't use Steamworks.
Yeah, it was still IP
own
connections, right?
Yeah, you had to use Direct IP Connect in order to play. So we would use Evolve to simulate a LAN and just play that way.
Yeah, because it's a lot easier than trying to punch a hole in a firewall.
Yeah.
Because naturally, routers will bounce direct IP connections unless you set it up properly. And, it's a lot easier to set up Evolve than it is to just, try to do that.
Yeah.
So this is a bigger deal than, just laughing at Evolve. Haha, Evolve's in the news again. But it's one of those things that, what was the monetization for Evolve? Because I don't recall there even really being ads. I know Game Ranger had ads.
I think they had a premium service that you paid for.
Obviously, not a lot of people paid for it.
To get bonus features? No, we never paid for it, and it was awesome and feature complete on its own. So I don't know what you actually got.
I think maybe there was a banner ad on the now that I recall, I think there was a banner ad on the software itself, but it was one of those things that it was so small that it was kind of blended in, which does it maybe that's part of the reason why Evolve failed.
Yeah, I wonder if you've already got the app and everything installed for the program. Will it still work?
I imagine it won't, because you had to have an account, and
That's true.
It had a central server that was a matchmaker essentially. So I imagine that I may as well uninstall Evolve, because I still have it installed from. I think the last game I played on was Factorio.
Yeah,
but this is a big blow to the retro gaming community, mostly because there was a lot of older games that had pretty full of rooms, just room upon room upon room. I remember Battlefront having a lot of rooms.
Yeah. I know that Game Ranger exists. What are some other alternatives
Game Ranger
to Evolve?
and Hamachi are the big ones still. Which Hamachi, I think, is a premium service nowadays.
Hamachi.
Yeah, I've already got it. Looks like there is a pricing thing here. Let's click on it. Okay, Hamachi allows you to have up to 5 computers per network. So there you go. But if you want a bigger game, then it is a $50 a year subscription.
On the one hand, that's not terrible, but on the other hand, I would never pay for it. Yeah,
it depends on the game. But granted, Hamachi is more for a business-oriented thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they do mention gaming in it, but well, here's their tagline. LogMeIn Hamachi is a hosted VPN service that lets you securely extend LAN-like networks to distributed teams, mobile workers, and your gamer friends alike. Yeah, very last thought on the gaming aspect of it.
Yeah.
And the thing is that what Evolve, main thing Evolve had going for it was that it allowed for randoms as well. It had the matchmaking in it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if there's another service like that, unless you want to go to like a Discord channel somewhere and do that.
Yeah. Well, Evolve also had the best interface and what I felt like the most features out of any of these similar type things. I mean, it had full menus where you could go in and adjust all kinds of settings, from audio settings to game settings to matchmaking preferences, and just tons of stuff. And it was all free.
Game Ranger also has quite a few of options that you could log into different random rooms. So Evolve isn't completely replaced, or isn't that functionality isn't completely gone, but it's definitely one of those things that is we're poor off for retro gaming because of it.
Yeah.
There's only so many options for virtual LANs before you start having to mess with firewalls. And Evolve, going the way of the dodo, as they call it, is definitely a detriment.
Yeah. I suppose we'll have to use Game Ranger for any future Factorio adventures until they actually put in Steamworks support. All right. Well, that was our last.
Like, well, I was just going to say, it looks like Game Ranger hasn't seen an update in a while either, at least according to their news. So that's a little bit troublesome.
Oh, January 31st. Dang. It's been a year and a half almost.
Mm-hmm.
Well, poo on those things.
I have to get the Hamachi after all. Get out the fish.
Well, before we do that, let's move on to our next thing, which is Community Corner.
And look, the crickets are back with the mailbag.
Yeah.
The empty mail sack.
Another week of slim pickings on that, but we did have a couple of tweets and the question of the week, so...
Yeah, well, first of all, let's do the question of the week. question of the week was, which classic video game do you consider the most overrated, and why do you consider it overrated? Kyle, Halo Combat Evolved. I think the game is a fairly bland shooter, which is only a classic due to it changing FPS genre staples. You're goddamn right. Sorry. Chemist said, responded to that, console FPS, enough said. Not disagreeing there. Do you have, I know you, let's respond to these. What do you think, to Kyle's comment?
What was...
Halo Combat Evolved. I could hear the...
I really love Halo, but it's been a couple of years since I've actually played it. I think I would agree that it's gotten overrated over time. What's got me so invested in the series at this point is not the games, but the universe. So, yeah, I think I would actually agree with that, although a bit more hesitantly than you guys would. But, I mean, I'm kind of a Halo fanboy, so it's a little bit harder for me to just jump all in on that. But, yeah, I think it has become overrated over time.
Okay, next up is Kim saying, got bored of shooters ages ago. This one, Half-Life 2 got bored of shooters ages ago. This one is not aged well. It may have been revolutionary for the time, but it's a Unity ass flip today, and Groove chimed in again. Source accent flip, smiley face. Which technically Groove is right. Yeah, the best kind of correct.
Technically correct.
Yeah. Which I could definitely see Chemist's point there that Half-Life 2 is definitely has a lot of ancient design choices, but which mostly revolve around physics. Because that was a very unique for Half-Life 2 was a lot of physics-based puzzles. Which I know. Looking back at it, it's kind of silly, huh?
Yeah.
And maybe the gameplay hasn't aged that well. Mostly because, it relies a lot on what is considered pretty much a staple, or a very basic thing these days is, you pick up that can. But also, I think Half-Life 2 is suffering from the whole, when is Half-Life 3 coming out, and being brought up with it,
Yeah.
That anticipation is putting Half-Life 2 on a pedestal and shining a brighter light on it than maybe it should be. But it was also if you pardon the turn of phrase, the source of a lot of asset flips. And also the source of a game engine. See what I did there? That powered, pretty much all of Valve's games going forward. Different variations of source. I mean, think about it. Is there a Valve game that isn't a source game? There isn't that I can think of since Half-Life 2. Or at least a variation of it.
I actually don't know.
I think Dota 2 is a variation of source as well, or the next source engine, which also shows just how flexible the source engine was. As a matter of fact, there's a reason why a lot of games were made in source before Unity came along, was that it is a very flexible engine. You could do a lot of things with it. Granted, a lot of people just ended up using the same damn crates for all their games, and that made it essentially a asset flip title, or the source of a lot of asset flips titles. But that's really splitting hairs there.
Something we do around here.
Yeah, Bugs Bunny is not a fan of the podcast. So be cool. Do you have anything you want to say else about Half-Life 2?
No, I mean, I got to the Half-Life party late, and I didn't think it was as good as everybody said it was at that point in time anyway, so...
Well, I played it years after the fact, but it's been years since. And I never played the second episode because I wanted to wait for the third one. Yeah.
Any day now.
Yeah, any day now. So Be Cool chimed in with 3 games. Didn't really give reasons for it, but I'll go down the list. The Last of Us, Diablo 2, and Bard's Tale. I could definitely see Diablo 2 if you're not a fan of the ARPG dungeon crawler looter, because that is a very niche genre.
Yeah.
Even though it has given rise to essentially a subgenre of the ARPGs, and the whole idea of the prefix-suffix idea of loot. Last of Us, well, I haven't really played it. I do know a good chunk of the story about it.
I've played Last of Us. I mean, it's a good game, but it's nowhere near as good as people said it was. It just had an above-average story, decent AI, and for the time on console, it looked really pretty.
Which really is all you need to be a hit on console.
Pretty much, yeah.
And Bard's Tale, which I know of Bard's Tale, I've never played it.
I've played it. It's not that great, but, I mean, Bard's Tale was 10, 15 years old, and I played it for the first time 2 or 3 years ago. To me, it was just an old game I got for like $1 on a Steam sale.
Yeah. I mean, all the screenshots on Steam are 4x3.
Yeah. Runs great on my laptop.
And Jim rounding things up with most NES, SNES, and Genesis games. They just weren't that fun, and playing them today with emulators really shows that. Talk about painting with a wide brush, huh?
I agree with that, though. We actually talked about that a little bit Friday night when we were playing Warframe. They were designed to be the best that they could be for the time. But, you
said Warframe.
Oh, well, yeah, War Thunder.
No, I was trying to figure out. Wait, did we talk about this when we were playing Warframe a couple weeks ago?
No. But, I mean, they were designed to be deliberately hard to maximize playtime.
Yeah, there was a term called Nintendo hard.
Yeah. And, I mean, it was,
Granted, RPGs, while simplistic, and you would call them, if a ROM of, let's say, Final Fantasy was released today, you would call it an RPG Maker game. Because, well, for one, RPG Maker, that's what, it's really hyping on, or going off of, is the 8-bit, 16-bit era of RPGs, for the most part.
Yeah.
But it is, there's a lot of story there. There's a lot of gameplay there. Granted, it is very vague, and it inflates its gameplay a bit just to because of that mysterious aspect of it. But then again, this was also the 80s and 90s. There wasn't the internet. It was trying to figure it out all on your own. So I could see it, especially if you didn't play back in the day, and you don't have that nostalgia.
Yeah.
But there's also, you can beat Super Mario Brothers, the original one, in 5 minutes if you're good. The world record is under 5 minutes by a fair amount of time. And I think a really good player could beat it in 10. Not world record pace, of course, but, a good player could beat it in 10 minutes if they know what they're doing.
Right. So what's your answer to the question?
Oh, I have to agree with Halo, considering recently.
Can you make another pick besides Halo? Since
I would have to really sit down and think about it.
Okay. I've got 2 right off the top of my head. So my first is Final Fantasy VII. In my opinion,
Fantasy VII is probably a good pick. But then again, also Final Fantasy VII is also launched like its own little sub-universe. I
know. Which is why it's overrated. I mean, it's not a bad game, but it's not the best Final Fantasy game. Not by a long shot. It's probably in the top 5. I mean, we've had an extended discussion about the Final Fantasy games before, but I mean, Final Fantasy VII is definitely overrated. And then my other, off the top of my head, Super Mario 64. It was just, I mean, it was neat to take Mario 3D. Like, that was pretty cool. But there's just so much about it that wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
Its controls were obtuse. So much was obfuscated from the player. Like, it just did not help them out in any way.
Okay,
the amount of backtracking that you had to do was asinine.
I should have thought of this off the top of my head. Skyrim. There's just so much about Skyrim that just takes me out of the game, and there's artificial limitations that I just don't understand how it is constantly on the top 100 list of Steam.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I like Skyrim. You know, we, again, talked about this at length, but I don't think it's as good as everyone else makes it out to be. It's not the best Elder Scrolls game, for sure.
Yeah, I should have thought of Skyrim right away. It's just, I put it out of my mind for a moment.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Was that?
Yeah, that is, oh, wait, we got a couple tweets as well.
Okay.
We had a couple from Billion Lights. This is in response to our announcement that Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons is our game club game for the month. Prepare yourselves to cry. It's a masterpiece. One of the few games that are awkward with mouse and keyboard, but awesome with a gamepad. 10 out of 10. And I responded, place your bets on the number of times that Jared breaks down into a sobbing mess. Billion says, 20 to 30 laughs, one serious onion-cutting ninja attack. Chemist, wait, we haven't covered it already? I distinctly remember having already shat all over that port. Oh, it was just a question of the week about something about disappointing games. Might give it one more look. Which, Billion Lights, I think, is way underestimating the amount of a blubbering mess that you could turn into at the drop of a hat, Jared.
I suppose we'll see. I mean, I haven't played it yet, but
I've played it before, so I know exactly. I'm expecting at least 2 good controller dropping crying moments from you. At least.
Well, I look forward to it. I always go for a good cry.
Yeah, that's probably why you picked this title. So if you wish to contribute to the community corner, you could do so by, for some reason, if you wish to email us, vglpodcast@gmail.com. Because, you know, the mail sack is a little on the empty side these past days. But it seems like the popular way to get a hold of us is via Twitter. VGL Podcast on Twitter. Well, Twitter.com, of course. It is Twitter.com, so I just got ahead of myself. But yeah, we will comment or just respond to your tweets. Like we just did. So, Discovery Key?
Indeed. Go for the theme song.
I'm not. You are. You're the editor. You're the one putting it in post.
I know, but that's when it will start.
And I'm on my Discovery queue, and what in the hell is this?
What?
This looks like is this a racing game? Yes, it looks like a racing game that looks like it. I'm going to drop this in the in my list as soon as I scroll up to it. Okay. There you go. It's called Hover: Revolt of the Gamers. It looks like almost Jet Set Radio racing game. It looks interesting. I have no idea how this plays. It's released just a few days ago. About a week ago now. I'd never heard of this title at all. It's very colorful. I mean, it looks like the old Jet Set Radio games, doesn't it?
Yeah, like, I mean, a little more modernized.
Yeah, of course.
But it still very much has that aesthetic, and Jet Set Radio was cel-shaded, if I remember correctly, so
yeah,
it still looks...
Yeah, hang on, let me check out the trailer for this, because I just saw yeah, that looks a lot like Jet Set Radio meets a platformer. I mean, Jet Set Radio was a platformer, essentially, but it was more of get to various spots and spray paint and then escape from the cops. This looks more open-world platformer-ish, with possibly a little bit of racing involved. It doesn't. Is this multiplayer? It doesn't look like it. No, it looks like it has online co-op. That's interesting. That's going on the wish list. I've never heard of this title at all.
Yeah, same. I just put it on my wish list.
And the thing is, it's relevant to me because it has positive reviews. It's currently popular, and now it's on my wish list. And it doesn't give me any games that it's like.
Yeah, same. According to this, 2 friends already own this game. For me. 2 of my friends.
And I'll go directly into another possibly interesting looking one. Boy, I'm getting the good ones, I guess.
You are. I've gotten several shit games.
I just dropped Tokyo 42 in. It's an isometric shooter. It's relevant to me because I own Brigadier. It's a 3D isometric shooter with a very simple art style to it. It looks interesting.
Hey, Tokyo 42 is in my Discovery queue as well. Doesn't particularly look like something I'd enjoy, but
well, you absolutely hate anything isometric.
Usually,
unless it's Divinity.
Yep.
Oh, look, it's another prop pump game. Now let's skip that. Okay, now I'm starting to get the shit. So, did you get anything good in your queue?
I've got a couple of games left, but no, so far I've not gotten anything. Lots of cheap games, asset flip looking stuff, but nothing bad enough to be memorable. Just all generic garbage.
Well, I just dropped another one. Mind Cubes Inside the Twisted Gravity Puzzle. This looks essentially like a physics-based puzzle game with the art style of Limbo. And it looks very difficult. From the fact that it has the tag casual in it. And that's usually a joke tag.
Yeah.
It looks like a puzzle platformer with a little bit of physics puzzler in it, where you're able to twist the levels around. And there was a game that I played ages ago that was like this. Not this art style, of course, but and I'm blanking on the title of it. It was in the Humble Bundle at one point, where it wasn't particularly good because it was one of those where if you fell more than 3 feet, it was instant death. And you know how that turns out with puzzle games, huh?
Yeah, that's always frustrating.
That's gonna bug me.
Well, while you look that up, I finally found one that looks interesting. It's called First Strike Final Hour. You play one of 12 countries that has nuclear weapons, and the goal is to build up your nuclear arsenal and nuke the rest of the world.
I'm pretty sure I have a review copy of that.
One of the trailers for this game is 50 seconds of nuclear explosions from historical archives.
From the looks of it, it looked like essentially a 3D version of DEF CON. Have you ever played that?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, I'm going to give up on looking for this platform because looking up 2D platform on Steam is, exercise of futility.
Yeah, probably
on Haystack.
Probably half the games on Steam are 2D platformers.
Hell, probably half the games in my library are 2D platformers.
Yeah. This is interesting. Yeah. First Strike, Final Hour. Cutesy nuclear war. That's...
Yeah, DEF CON had that very, very... Oh, I never said... Mind Cubes Into Darkness... Into the Twisted Gravity Puzzle. How this game relevant to you? This game doesn't look like anything you've played in the past. Bullshit.
Oh, I didn't look at how First Strike was relevant to me. As this game doesn't look like other things you've played in the past. As such, we don't have much information.
What in the...
So this looks interesting.
What in the flying fuck? Oh, it's one of those.
What?
Okay. This looks like a very bad version of a lot of puzzle games that I've played, or a lot of puzzle platformers. It seems like it's the puzzle platformer episode for me. I gotta send you this just because of the protagonist. All right?
Okay.
It's someone you could identify with.
Sumo Man?
And yes, it's exactly what you think it is.
Oh, I've got this marked as not interested already on my wish list.
It looks terrible. It looks like a bad version of literally half a dozen puzzle games I can think of right off the bat. Especially, well, let's see. It's relevant to you because you have Tron Enchanted Edition. Yeah, it looks like a bad version of Tron. It looks like a bad version of Typo Man, which is another game like this. It does look like it has some sort of multiplayer race mode, which could be interesting. But yeah, it's just one of those things. The trailer doesn't sell it.
Nope. So the other game that I pulled up that looked interesting, Disputed Space. It's a 6 degrees of freedom space shooter where you take place in fleet battles and you're like a fighter. But I have never seen that many pew-pews in a screenshot in my life. There must be thousands of laser bolts or plasma bolts or whatever they're supposed to be.
Did you drop a link in?
And that shot.
Oh yeah, you did.
It looks insane.
It's like a 3D version of Agaruga.
I'm interested in this. And of course, it's similar to many games that I've played. It's only listing 2, but I've played 10,000 space games on Steam. So, I mean, it's got Sirius Online and Atomic Space Command listed, but mini games would fit this description.
Well, I'm done with my queue.
Yeah, that was the last game in my Q2. So, I had 2 and you had 4.
Well, I had 3 good ones, and I'm putting Sumo Man in as a joke. You know, like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, I didn't even have any good jokey ones.
Yeah, so a good week for me for the Discovery queue, at least.
Yeah, I got a couple. That's not terrible. I can live with it. I was worried there for a second I was going to get none, but my last 2 games were actually okay,
if you got none, I was going to force you to take another Discovery queue.
Is that the rule? If you get 0, you take another queue?
I think so.
Fair enough.
I don't think we could have a week where we're completely empty on a queue.
QQ.
No, it's Pew Pew, or at least that one game is.
QQ. All right, well, with that out of the way, it's time to move on to the portion of the podcast where I go first, which is where we talk about our stuff. Coming up on my YouTube channel this week, this is the week where that Naval Ops Commander goes up. I'm also working on a couple of reviews. I don't know if I'll get them done in time. I'm working on one for Starpoint Gemini Warlords, which it's massive, and I'm going, this is too much. I have to figure out how to trim this down in some way, and then I keep adding stuff to it, so I don't know. I'll figure that one out.
Yeah, while you chatter away, I'm going to get up and stretch for a moment.
Fair enough.
Back is starting to ache.
Fair enough. But, yeah, so don't know if I'll get to those. I'm going to do my best, but I've got a busier work week this week than usual. I have to get up at I have to get up at 6 in the morning to get ready to leave my house at 7 to be at a clinic that's an hour away. And normally, I don't even technically go to work until like noon, because I drive around to places and am out later in the afternoon and evening. But anyways, I digress. That's pretty much what's coming up on my YouTube channel. I mean, there's the current Divinity stuff, which I've actually been rendering on time properly, that's coming up. And potentially something involving Borderlands. Jim and Ghost and Cube have talked about doing some Borderlands playing together, and I might turn that into a thing, but I also might not. I might just enjoy it, so I suppose we'll see. And I probably should ask those guys first, because if they don't want to do anything, then I won't do anything with it. But yep, that's what's coming up on my YouTube channel in the next week. And if you want to go see my YouTube channel, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist on YouTube. I would love likes and subscribes from everyone. I'm just gonna eat up all those likes. No. If you want to see me tweet about all kinds of random things, you can do so over at JMA4707 on Twitter. This past week have been my escapades with going through tech and building a server machine for the house, and also discussing about what sort of mods and hackery to do to my Wii U, or breaking it, although it'd be on accident, not on purpose. And then if you want to watch me stream games on Twitch, you can do so over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. I don't know what this Friday's Twitch game is going to be yet, but I'll be tweeting about it as soon as possible. Also, if you want to be my friend on Steam, my Steam username is jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests from all people, because everyone has been cool. And I meant to say this before the Steam thing, but I also do another podcast called Stray as a Pretzel with Chemist, which is one of our B-Team hosts here on Video Game Logic. And we talk about cute boys and cute girls and fun adult topics that are actually pretty serious about sex and sexuality. And then we talk about the cute boys later when we want to have some fun.
And if you wish to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is mango.
I don't like mangoes.
Well, I got the perfect timing down when I came back with my ibuprofen.
Yeah, I heard you come back.
Yeah, sorry about that. Back occasionally just gives you problems, and walking with a limp, it fucks up your back even more than you may imagine.
Yep, no problem. I think I'm gonna actually just stand up at my desk, move my mic up while you do your part, because I'm feeling a little bit stiff, and not in a good way.
Oh my. Well, my channel is still suffering from the Halo bug, where I haven't gotten a proper replacement, not for lack of trying. I've gone through, I think, about 4 games that I've done active recordings on in the last week. Let's see, I've tried This Is the Police and just wasn't feeling it. And after Halo, if I'm not really feeling like wanting to play the game after about an episode or 2, I just drop it and not even bother putting it out. Just not try to force it. I tried recording Darksiders 2, which I realize I have a bit of history with the Darksiders series, but supposedly the combat in Darksiders 2 is a lot better. And I will agree, at least from the beginning of the game. But it actually crashed the controller software, which I've never seen it do before. What I do on my computer is I use a DualShock controller, and I have a program that essentially takes the direct input from the DualShock and emulates a Xbox 360 controller. This did something to that software, and it completely locked my controller to the point where my controller wouldn't turn off. So I decided, maybe this isn't the game for me. Tried Metro 2033 and just wasn't feeling it. It's a good game. It's just I wasn't in the mood for it.
Right.
And tried a couple other smaller ones and just wasn't feeling it. I think if it comes down to it, I may just go back and play something that I've played before, and because I typically try to play games that I haven't played because I like that first impressions experience.
Right.
But I may have to go back and play something I played before, which isn't a bad thing. Sometimes it's good to go back. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is. We'll see. But outside of that, RimWorld is seeing its 6-month anniversary for the current play series, which is just astonishing. Which it's past 80 episodes. Well, past it at this point. And I am starting my research on what mods I want to have for Alpha 17, which is also eating up part of the time that I should be trying to replace Halo with. But I also want to, have Alpha 17 ready to go in the next month. And RimWorld is one of those games that, unless it suddenly ends during a gameplay, I'm still looking at a good, week or two past what I already have recorded. I don't want to say how many episodes I have recorded, but I have some. And interesting things happen. Oh, and I should say this. On one of the episodes, this isn't really a spoiler for the story, the story of the colony of the victims of circumstance in the town of Dingy. But I found that Groove, he was carrying around a crate. I'm not joking. I found it just randomly. I have no idea why, but it's like, fine, you want to carry a crate? Carry a crate. Let me just make sure it's empty and there's nothing important in it.
Silly Groove. That's funny.
And I think if I'm going to use one of the mods I'm thinking about, which is a bunch of holler bots, I'm going to ASCII size the name Groove and name all my holler bots Grooves. Can a robot whine? I guess we'll find out. Assuming I use that mod. I haven't even entered the testing phase, which testing with the amount of mods I use takes a while. I'm in the build-up phase right now, trying to get ahead to give myself some time. And, well, Divinity is still ongoing. It's now rather safely back, and we have a few episodes in the can. Granted, our last recording session didn't turn out as prosperous as we would hope, because, Jared needed a few hours to sort all his inventory and craft.
Yeah.
But to be fair, we hadn't been in town in, 20 episodes? 10 episodes?
Yeah, at least 10 or 15, maybe 20.
I mean, it's been a very long time. And the thing is that I'll also have a pack mule by the name of Medora that could carry everything for me.
Yeah.
So my inventory, while a mess, isn't nearly the mess that Jared's is. Besides, Medora's just awesome. I mean, I don't think there's any dispute of that now, right?
No, she's definitely the best fighter in our group.
Yeah, we are utterly screwed if she ever gets charmed.
I mean, the other 3 members of the party are mostly there to support Medora.
Okay, the strategy for this boss fight: heal Medora.
Yeah, the last boss fight that we did, we discovered that there was actually a proper way to beat it, but we just brute forced our way through it by healing and buffing Medora.
Well, Medora has twice the health of really any of our other characters, and she has more armor than any of the other characters.
Yeah.
The only thing that could really hurt her is just having her crippled where she doesn't get enough AP to do any damage. Because she does a truckload of damage.
Yeah.
But she was definitely a good pick. I don't think any of the other characters I could have picked for my secondary could have been anywhere near as useful as Medora.
Yeah.
And to think, you didn't like her at first.
I didn't. She's proved me wrong. Also, she scares me.
I'm still a little shocked that she hasn't commented about Aru. The fact that he's a cat and she doesn't like cats for some reason.
I feel like she did, 30 episodes ago. Who knows?
What you have to realize, each episode for us is a little over an hour of gameplay.
Yeah.
So when we talk about, 15 episodes, 20 episodes, that's 15 or 20 hours.
Yeah.
And we're only about at the halfway mark of the game. Thereabouts.
Yeah. We're on episode 39, and then we were at 49 hours of gameplay on our save.
Yeah, so. which that's also behind the scenes stuff. Let's see. I'm just seeing what was the last episode we released, or I released, I should say. You are a few episodes.
Am I?
The last one I released was 33. I
think the last one I released was 32. So.
All right, so you've caught up. So you're now back to the Wednesday. Wednesday, Saturday. Right? Well, what you get in lockstep, right?
Yeah, I need to actually go in and schedule the newer Divinities. I scheduled some of my other content, but not Divinity, because it was still in the catch-up phase. I didn't think about it.
Yeah. You almost went right past me. Yeah. We are really enjoying Divinity. It's just, it's buggy as hell.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the last episode is out of sync. Where we were having... Well, I was having a syncing issue of stats. Which was annoying. Oh, Divinity. I really hope Divinity Ritual Sin 2, when we eventually play it, because I think that's pretty much a given at this point, right?
Yeah, we'll take a little hiatus, play a game in between, I think, or maybe a couple of games. But
yeah, definitely at least a few. Because, Divinity Original Sin 2, it isn't even released until after summer. And I would say probably at least a year before we play it.
Yeah.
But I hope it's not as buggy.
I hope so, too.
And, well, of course, the Sunday Sampler. I have a couple ideas what to play this week. Who knows? Maybe First Strike should be on there. I don't know. That's actually not a bad idea. I have a lot of good choices for the next few weeks, and that's not even counting what I may get. And one of the games I want to play, I want to give it some more time in early access because of a couple features that it's going to get, supposedly. And Jared also already knows what the game is, so I'm not going to say, and hopefully he won't as well.
My lips are sealed.
Because I like to be a little bit of a surprise. But that appears Sundays at noon, as well as the rest of my content. Generally at noon, well, except for RimWorld, which gets 2 episodes every time, noon and midnight. Well, Eastern time at least. And, well, this podcast appears on my YouTube channel, as well as Jared's, Fridays at noon. You find all that over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage. Or you can see me tweet somewhat randomly over on Twitter, Gaming with CR. Oh, sorry, stretching a little bit. Trying to prevent my back from spasming again. That kind of sucks when it does that. So, once again, if you wish to contact us for some reason, send us an email, which would be lovely, by the way. You'd find us at vglpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, or gaming-related topics. Or you can just tweet us, VGLPodcast on Twitter. If you wish to help pay for this absolute madness, which we, this week, right, we had our goal to pay for the next year.
That's right. I had completely forgot about that. I was going to mention that. Yeah, I tweeted about it through the official VGL Twitter. But we met whenever the June Patreon transaction showed up in the PayPal account. I was like, oh, hey, that's enough to pay for another year of hosting. I should tweet about that. So we're good. Good for the next year. I'm going to look at renewal, actually. There might be
Well, we may not be good, but we're at least paid.
Fair enough. So, yeah, that means the next 6 months of Patreon money can be used for, I don't know, something to help us out. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out, or just put it ahead towards the next year. We'll figure it out off the air.
Yeah.
But that's patreon.com/VGLpodcast. And, well, it's getting the money for now. Podbean. Our website is vglpodcast.podbean.com. There you can find our show notes and our RSS feed. Or if you wish to listen to iTunes or Google Play, we are there as well. And hopefully that's up to date because it seems like Google Play's had some issues in the past. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground, and our Discovery Cube music is Doobly Doo, both by Kevin McLeod. You can find his work at incompetech.com.
And as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
We're in the money.
Bye-bye.
Don't mess
Hello
up.
and welcome. Oh. That one's on you.
Well, the thing is, you could have just it kept on going.
I could have, but it's hard for me to just power through. I have to turn my music. I have to turn my music off when I read all of the opening stuff, and then I turn it back on after I'm done. And occasionally, if I get on like a really big, long, drawn-out topic or something, I'll stop the music so it doesn't distract me.